And then can I just say this? I know it's crazy. It's crazy to talk about, but there were people like Billy Meier who predicted this and prophesized this years in advance and knew the dates, knew the locations where he would be killed, and also knew the dates and locations of where RFK would be.
Billy Meier, you can put Billy Meier UFO photos.
Where's he from? What?
He's Swiss. He was a Swiss.
Yeah, we have his book. That was that.
I know.
Somebody came to the comedy store and gave me this book on that guy.
The big pictures on that. Yeah,
but isn't that widely proven
well,
that
they
that
say,
guy's full of shit?
well, look at the one by the pine tree. They're going, oh, he attached the saucer to the pine tree.
I heard he threw it in the air and took a picture of it.
Okay, well, that's one theory, but wasn't it, didn't they do that just to show the scale of their ship? And some of those photos are pretty convincing. I don't know. And okay, if you want to say doubt.
One guy who keeps taking awesome pictures of UFOs, I'm not buying it.
But for the first time, they were going to allow someone to take very clear pictures of their ships for proofs. And so she had invited him to bring the camera along, and that later on he'd be able to take even clearer and better pictures. There's a few other things they wanted to make clear also. One, they were going to pass on a lot of information about religions. They wanted to make it clear that they did not come to Earth on behalf of any religion and were not connected to any. They told him that later on that there would be a lot of education about religions and the problems, some of the problems that religions were causing on the planet, because they felt that we were rather spiritually stagnant, that we had been misled by many different belief structures and religions, and that we had not really come close to the real accurate information about what was going on in the universe.
Greetings, welcome to Ancient Library, and yeah, today I'm here with Dukes, who is in the FIGO group, and we were going to get a more elaborate view on the Billy Meier case. And yeah, I cover the Billy Meier case a lot of my channel, and there's so much information. So today we got one who studied the case for a decade or even longer, and he's going to give us some advanced information on the Billy Meier case. So yeah, what's up, Dukes?
Hi, how's it going? It's great. It's great to be with you. It's great to hear your voice. Great to see you. I'm very excited about what we're going to talk about. Some really interesting stuff and some stuff most people have never seen before.
Yeah, I'm certain. We talked a little bit beforehand, and yeah, I'm stoked for this episode. Okay. Yeah, I mean, how you came in contact with the Billy Meier case, and how long in the past was this, or is this just you're like the similar age to me, I guess, and so you studied the case for 10 years, you said, and how you came in contact with the case in the first place?
I was always interested in outer space as a little kid, so I've always been a little bit interested in like rocket launches and UFOs and that topic. So I was kind of searching my whole life, but then about 12 years ago, I found on YouTube the Randy Winters tapes, and Randy was summarizing the early contact notes of Billy, and he was just giving his summaries and going through the early ones, and I got hooked on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. It's actually the same thing happened to me. And I came in contact with the case through these tapes, and yeah, it's like a pretty good way to pack the information and yeah, bring it to the people. And I think he done pretty good work with the tapes. Like, even if we put the contents aside, I think it's very entertaining to listen to the case, to listen to the tapes. Yeah, and how you came in contact with the FIGO, and what was the decision to do some own work and yeah, search for more information? into the
Well, I
yeah.
started reading the contact reports, and I was just reading one after the other after the other. Like, every night, I would read one or two, and I just kept reading them. And back then, when I found the case, they weren't even all available. There were hundreds of missing contact reports that weren't translated or weren't available on Future of Mankind. So that slowly filled in as people translated them. And some of them were even like redacted. I guess they couldn't be published until a certain year had passed, until certain events had, and until it was safe to kind of release this information, because it's always very controversial stuff and very sensitive stuff. So it took me about a year or two of looking everything, going to the source, right? The problem people go through with Billy Meier is they go to second or third or fourth hand sources. They never go directly, right? They should be going directly to Switzerland to figure where Billy lives. They should be listening to his words and his words only, and they should be reading his words and his words only, and the ones around him, like the eyewitnesses, because otherwise, most of the stuff you find on the internet is basically paid disinformation. There is a huge censorship campaign on this. There is suppression. People's YouTube channels have gotten taken down, and the search results get pushed down pages and pages where it should be like the #1 result, right? You have to go sifting through all like the lies and the attacks.
Yeah.
So I want to show you and your viewers some firsthand, right, like courtroom quality evidence, like something I could walk into a court of law and present to the jury and the lawyers and the judge and say, this is the evidence, this is real evidence, I can prove that it's real, right? Now it's up to each person to decide their final judgment, but they have to look at all of the evidence, right? They can't just say, oh, I saw this photo and I don't think that's real, or I heard this from this one person, right? There's like
Yeah.
900 contact reports, there's over 600 photos of the beam ships, there's 9 films, and many more missing. There's metal sample sound recordings, fingerprints, footprints, the lie detector test, right? We have radar, we have the electron scanning microscope, we have 120, probably 150 eyewitness accounts, right? And you have to read, you have to go through a lot, and it takes a long time, and you can't really rush this thing. Like, I know you're going through one of the books, and it takes a long time because the information is very dense and packed with good stuff. So I got hooked on it. I started going through it. It took me about, I would say, 6 months to a year and a half to really wrap my head around the whole thing. But I want to tell people that it's worth it. I think it's worth it. It's valuable stuff. It's the most important treasure that I've ever found. So I want to kind of present to people who are new or on the fence, or even like total diehard skeptics. I want them to see this presentation, what I'm about to show.
Yeah, that sounds great. And just to pick up on it quick, I already told you about the Chris Bledsoe case, which is like a newer case originating from the USA. I don't know which state, but I think it's Nevada. I'm not sure. But it's like you can see this because the Billy Meier case is existent for like seven decades or even or many years, and the Chris Bledsoe case is like for like 3 to 5 years around, and it's got so much traction. It's been hosted by the History Channel in like Skinwalker Ranch type media operations, I would say. And you can just see like the Billy Meier case, there is some suppression going on because, like you said, the results when you search, you always get second, third hand media talking about the case in a bad way. And it doesn't seem like it's on a fair playing ground when I see this other case where it gets so much traction, so much people know about this, and it's happened in such a short time span. So yeah, I think there's some truth to that.
Well, once I found this, I've researched pretty much all the other UFO cases out there, and the Billy Meier case blows them all away, in my opinion, because it has more evidence than all the other cases combined, like really good, clear, like crystal clear solid evidence and not just like stories, like someone telling a story. So
Yeah,
it's
and
more than it's more than just one guy, like, you know, giving his experience. And the other the other thing that you find out through the contact reports is the Plejarens, who are the human extraterrestrials, they call out like frauds by name, like Adamski and all
yeah,
these people. So
Adamski, yeah,
there are still, if you would go through that, you could cross all these people off the list. You could put a line through their name because the Plejaren already looked into it and they explain like how they hoaxed it in some
yeah,
areas. And you know, all the other noise just falls away. Like this is the signal. If
yeah,
you're interested in UFOs, this is where you want to focus, because everything else surrounding is a waste of time. All those people that have big budget production shows and TV deals and book contracts and all that stuff, it's all like marketing
yeah,
and you know, it's all noise to me. And I wanted to answer your previous question of why I got into Figu is because after, I don't know, maybe like 5 years of getting into some of the information and some of Billy's books, which I'll talk about in the very end, all his books that he's written, um, I realized how important this is. And some people realize like the impact this is going to make on the entire world, like the future of human civilization. This affects like the entire everyone on the planet. Like if you live on this planet, like this information is important to you because it has to do
yeah,
with our future survival and the planet and the environment and politics and human freedom and human rights and health and every topic you can imagine. This has it all. So I want to make a case. So I decided that it was important to me just to join Figu, to be a little more involved, and I ended up going over twice to Switzerland and meeting Billy twice and talking to other eyewitnesses and making friends from all over the world, because when you go there, people from all over the world are coming, and it's like
yeah,
you can meet like-minded people. So um anyways, this is like a very specific presentation and it's very detailed, but it's packed full of like really good facts and evidence. So that's why I want to walk people through this evidence of this case in a new way, and so people can maybe get an idea of like how long this has been going on. First of all, it's going on today, right? It's still going on, like you know, like every day, like Billy's like writing, and like every couple days he's like meeting with the ETs. And then this also started when he was a little kid, so it's been
yeah,
going on like his whole life. It's been going on our whole lives. Like anyone listening to this has been going on your whole life, and most people don't know about it. So
yeah.
that's why I'm here, because people need to know about this.
Yeah, and even it's going even on for longer, I guess. The whole thing. It was just not just Billy Meier, but I think can go into this later. But yeah, I think another thing before we start, you talk about evidence, and there's a lot of evidence from this case, but it's quite hard to find because this is all there's like covered with all this noise and all these things. Okay, it looks like there's a UFO on a string, and then the discussion ends and people go their way and think it's fake. And so I'm pretty stoked to see your presentation and your elaborate evidence on the case. And I think we start here, I guess.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go really fast through a bunch of handwritten letters and other documents, and I hope everyone gets comfy, get your snacks and drinks, because we're gonna do a deep dive right now.
Great.
So first I'm gonna start out with a letter. Okay, I'm gonna start with some old letters. I don't know when this was written, but it was it's in one of the contact reports that came out a couple years ago, and I'm gonna read it. And this is what it looks like here, so you can tell it's like a real like handwritten letter. It's written in German, you know, which you can read. And this was probably written in the 1940s or 1950s. Okay, and I'm just gonna read it real quick, and maybe we'll just discuss like the key points of it when I'm done. Okay, here we go. This is the first letter. So this was there's no date on it. It was probably written in the late 1940s or early 1950s. Okay, so it's a German handwritten letter someone sent to Billy later on recently, and this is what they published it in the contact reports, and here's what it says. Dear Fritz, what I write to you must remain between us, and therefore you must preferably burn this letter after you have read it, together with Alois. I have news for our group, but it must always remain secret and serve our cause, and really must remain secret for all time, just as it must never become public that I have something to do with the whole affair. Also, no one in the office must learn anything about the fact that I only go to church for the sake of appearances, because in this way I prevent myself belonging to all of you. For we have also those in the office who help this dirty ruffian because they are well-minded towards him, which is not understandable. Therefore, we must also encourage Hans to, at the school, point out to the pupils, and these then to the others, that they should not call this mean scoundrel Eddie, who's young Edward Meier, Eddie, but as has already been done for a long time, simply as Little Fight Meier and Filthy Meier, so that he already now, and also in his further life, or in the future, does not have any rest. But what I want to tell you is that we interrogated Meyerhofer, who was also seen together with this dirty guy, and he said that this dirty dog Meier would be the new prophet, and furthermore, that the New Testament would be a book of lies. This, however, must not be spread by this guy in our little town, and must also not be taken out into the world. For this reason, we in the office, and also through the help of our brother in faith, the vicar, but also of our brothers and sisters in faith living in various other countries, and through our connections, have undertaken and been able to achieve everything to ensure that for all time this scribbler, should he really ever accomplish to go abroad, which he did, then he will be decried or decreed in every country by the embassies, and will also be dealt with as a dirty ruffian, because it is unacceptable that he denies our Savior and God, which is, however, not good, and meanly defamatory, for which he must be punished. And for this our dear Savior will surely stand by us and help us. And how we were able to do that, and for it to actually work, if the scoundrel will be able to do what he says, then our plan must be carried out until far into the future, and it must also work out. This is what Alois, okay, remember this name, it's going to come up a couple times. This is what Alois and I want to tell you next Sunday evening at 8 o'clock at a meeting, when we meet at your place in the Vega, for which you should then close the restaurant, because we have to be among ourselves and no one will hear anything. Okay, and they crossed out the name, whoever did this. Okay, so this is the letter. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, sounds pretty spooky to me, to be honest. I mean,
it sounds like they're conspiring against these people, are doing secret stuff, right? And they don't like this guy, Meier, right?
Yeah, because it interferes with their religious stuff.
Exactly. So Billy's like a little kid at this point, okay? He's like, I don't know, maybe like 10 or 12.
Okay, what year are we talking here?
It's not dated, so the other letters have dates, but it's probably in the early 50s or late 40s. So he's between like 8 and 12 years old, maybe, at this point.
Okay.
And I talk about some of this in the contact reports, but this basically sets up that there's some kind of conspiracy going on. This person's writing to Fritz, right? And they're saying, we're going to meet here in secret and close down the restaurants. We're going to have the secret meeting, so we got to get this kid, right? This dirty kid. And then they're saying, we got to tell the guy at school to like tell the kids to call this kid names, right? So Billy, like Edward, his name, he was born Edward Albert Meier, right? Eddie.
Yes.
He was like harassed and like, called names and all this stuff, like for no reason, like he never did anything wrong, right? But these adults were conspiring against this little child. Okay, this is what I'm trying to like set up here as the intro, the first letter. All right, so it's pretty crazy, but it gets crazier. It's way crazier.
Yeah, but how did they even know that this little boy, in this case,
because he's in school and he's
talking the truth? Like how they know that he's got the potential to distort their religious belief or something. It's pretty nuts to me that they even fear a little kid at this point. But yeah, I think that's just the foundation.
It's crazy. He was in school, right? Can you see this new screen with the letter on top? Can you see my screen?
Yeah, like
okay. So this is the next letter. But when he was in school as an elementary school student, different teachers he got along with, and different teachers he did not get along with, right? Because he, since age 5, he got in telepathic contact with Svath, right? So Svath was his like teacher, right? In the secret alien teacher who would take him on trips and everything and teach him different things, including like the German language. So he had very good writing and reading skills and
Yeah,
history
his
and nature.
first contact person. Yeah.
First contact person. And the teacher might say something in school and Billy would open his mouth and like correct the teacher and be like, that's not how it is. Like, and
Yeah.
he would like spout off some advanced like thing about like chemistry or nature, because like Svath taught him these things, right? From like for 11 years basically. So since at least age 7, Svath was picking Billy Meier up and going on trips and taking him things and also teaching him like telepathically in his spare time. So
Yeah.
so we're
I
gonna
just
get into the
see
next. Go ahead.
this is like a German letter, and I just read a few lines, and it's pretty offensive, to be honest.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
it gets kind of
pretty
crazy.
nasty. Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. And you can see it's signed by a couple people at the bottom. And yeah, they hate this guy. They hate this young Eddie. So this is 1951. So Billy was born in 1937, right? And I don't know what it says the date, but it's something the 7th of something in 1951, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to read it. It's just 2 pages in English. And you'll see how it develops more, okay? My dear Esther, and this is sometime in 1951. I hope you get my letter soon enough so that you have enough time to come by train. I and everyone else absolutely have to talk to you and Gattaker because I have seen that little tough Eddie Meyer, the damned filthy man from Niederflachs, who has so humiliated our dear Savior and lies as a delusion. This little filthy dog talks like a grown-up, right? Because he had the intellect of like an adult by this time. Talks like a grown-up, which is why you can see the way he treats Tufel. Tufel. We don't know who Tufel is yet, okay? That's really the case because I saw it myself. That's really the case because I saw it myself when I went after him in secret yesterday. He went through the Horrigan to the Langenzingen. So he went through the woods to this like landing strip in this clearing in the field. And I saw something I couldn't believe. As he was sneaking around the Langenzingen for a long time, a huge, strange airplane like a silver pear suddenly came down from the sky and landed vertically on the ground. Then, all of a sudden, the tinkerer himself came out of it and took the filthy little man with him and simply flew away with him. This dog filth is really in league with the Tufel, and he even has an airplane and uses it to fetch this fiddler worshiper away and flies around with him. But when he came back again, I don't know where or when. So this is describing Svath's pear-shaped ship and Svath.
Yeah.
And
And
they're
Tuval
calling
is the
Svath
devil.
the devil, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Teufel.
They're saying like he's in league with the devil. Okay.
Yeah, of
In
course. Yeah.
1951, they're like extremely religious, like fanatical, right? So this is someone who spied on little Eddie, right? Followed him into the woods and sees a UFO come down and a guy get out and pick him up, and Eddie flies away with them.
Yeah, just to jump in here real quick. Like I have one question, and it's like this is in the 1950s, and nowadays, like if they have interactions with him, they got all this tech and scanning all the people around. Like how can this be happen in the first place? Like they cannot be seen, and they got some secret observers in this case seeing the whole thing. So is this just like, yeah, like human error, or did they just not like did SWAF did not scan the area, or is it just like I don't know?
Maybe Svath wanted her to see.
Yeah, okay, this was the next thing I was thinking about. Yeah. Okay, go
So
ahead.
so we're in like rural Switzerland in like the woods and the mountains and stuff. There's not a lot of people, okay, first of all.
Yeah.
And sometimes Eddie would go out in the middle of the night when like everyone's asleep. He would just like sneak out of his window, jump out of his window, walk into the woods and like walk and get picked up, you know? And other times like he would skip school and he would just walk into the woods to a certain place and he'd get picked up. So there were, less than half as many people living on the planet. Actually, there was like a fraction of as many people on the planet back
Yeah.
then. And then this is like rural Switzerland, where there's like mountains and like beautiful rolling hills and forests and everything. So it's not like anywhere near a big city. The closest city was Zurich. In 1951, there wasn't a lot of air traffic and like, other
Yeah.
things.
Different world.
We just have to get him somehow. Get him away from Bully, which is like the area, and maybe make him disappear from the face of the earth. And if we don't catch him and he doesn't die and get big and runs away, then we have to see if we can find him everywhere, and so that he kills himself, which would be the best solution. We have to do everything we can for that and rest. He said to Therese last week that when he grew up, he would go out into the world and turn his back on Bully and never come back. That's why we have to see to it that he and we can stop him. But if he can go away anyway, we must do everything we can to prevent him from going anywhere good in the world, wherever he goes. If he can grow up and doesn't die first, we must also seek and persecute him abroad, because he is a blasphemer and also lies to our Savior and does not accept him. In the past, such scum were always burned at the stake. We must force him to either convert to our Savior and he comes to us, or he should die first, so that he doesn't grow up and can go out into the world. And he can't write books of lies later on either, as he pleases. But there's a prophecy that's fulfilled. But if he can go after all, then we will have to make sure that he has no peace, even if he grows old, as he told Hans at school, and he made him wild as a fox with it, and he really spanked this tinkerer with a beating. So his teacher, Hans Fry, his teacher physically beat him up a couple times.
Yeah.
And that kind of like happened like more in like the past, but like,
Yeah.
it's still really, it's still
yeah.
like terrible,
Yeah, my grandpa is telling me in school in these days it was like not normal, but the threshold was different like today.
Yeah, they would discipline you, like they would hit you with a
Yeah.
ruler or something, but he wasn't like misbehaving. He was just like
Yeah.
being honest and, So I'll continue. But we will drive out his scary, fiddly tricks, and he must atone for everything for the rest of his life and be punished, because he insults our dear Savior and also believes and says that he did not die on the cross and did not go to heaven, and that is quite blasphemous. I've already met with Strasler and Jakob, and with Therese and Mog, and also with Helen, and with those at the chancery, and they think that the dirty man should be stopped. And he's like a boy, he's like a teenager. And those at the law firm have said that they've already done something, and also done something to make sure that Dreckmeyer doesn't get away with it in the future, because they will make sure of it and do everything they can so this little mean scumbag can't have peace the rest of his life, not even when he grows up and can go abroad. We have to stop him, because he cannot be allowed to spread the lies in the world that this little blasphemer says, that he will say everything when he grows up and later write books about it, and even about the Savior and God the Father and the belief in them is all just lies and deception. And what we all fail to understand is why he not punished for his blasphemous speech. We can only ask God and our dear Savior with prayers, but have not yet received an answer. Wonder why. This Eddie Meier is a small and mean blasphemer and scumbag who was in league with with the devil, and must be punished severely for the rest of his life until he dies. In return, we must also help the others in the chancery, and also provide for later, when he might be able to go abroad after all, when he has grown up. Even there, he must always be watched by our national representatives all over the world, and not be left in peace and therefore persecuted. I have myself, when he was picked up by the Teufel, or a devil, and flew away with him, and I'm scared, because the Teufel will always help him, even if he grows up. That's why we must all stick together and ask our Savior in heaven to help us, because this filthy fellow is a blasphemous denier of God and also lies to our Savior. This Eddie Dreckmeyer is dangerous for all of us and for our faith, because we all serve our Savior with love and will live forever in his love. But this filth wants to ruin that for us together with Teufel. But he tells me about him today that he was with the Tufel, that he was a good man from afar, who was Svath. But he told me again that our Savior is not the Son of God, and thus blasphemes our beloved Savior again. In the office, they have already taken a few steps and reprinted a few hundred letters and sent them to many police offices and to many national representations abroad and to authorities, and told them that this little scumbag will not be left in peace for the rest of his life if he really grows up and goes abroad and he doesn't convert to our dear Savior. But he hasn't done that yet because he doesn't want to pray to our Savior and doesn't apologize. So we think he's lost the plot and won't do it. That's why the people in the office have already started to do something so that he can spend the rest of his life by the police and the authorities and abroad by all the country representatives in the world and right up to the top here in Switzerland for the rest of his life. I can't say how they do it, but they say they know how to do it, that everything will be done for those who will take care of it in the future, and everything will not be forgotten by everyone after us. Therefore, because he is also against our good faith community and has said he sees us blank as all as stupid believers and that we do not think about the truth. Everything else we do now and in the future and still want to do against this filthy bastard, and what those who come after us must do in the future after us, that is why we want to talk. We want to talk to you and Gattaker because we are afraid and believe that even though he is still young, in the future he will be able to do everything he told Hans at school. However, he has sometimes spanked him with a gag, but this foolish good-for-nothing doesn't care and blasphemes anyway, saying that our Savior was just a simple man but not the Son of God. We all want to meet together in our meeting room in 5 days' time, next Sunday at 9 a.m., and hope that you will come here with your husband. May our Savior protect you, and I greet you. And it's signed, and Elizabeth and Jakob and Alois, there's that name again, also say hello to you. And they're signing it. So there's like multiple people like forming a group against him. They're saying, we're going to track him down if he travels overseas. We've contacted like people in the Swiss authorities, and like, so it's very sneaky, backhanded stuff here.
Against the child, yeah.
Against the young, like a minor,
Yeah.
like he's like
Yeah.
12, maybe, It's crazy. It's crazy. So he actually does end up. So let me just fill in like a little bit of time here because we're gonna travel to India in 1963. But before we get there, so he was accused of all these like crimes that he didn't commit. People got caught for committing a crime that they threw him under the bus basically, and they blamed him, and he would never like talk and defend himself. So he got punished. He got sent to like a juvenile in detention center a couple times. A woman like snapped a wet towel at him and like hit him with it, and then he caught it and like hit her back, and then they sent him off again. So he spent a couple years in like these like a mental institution basically, and because he never like defended himself, he just like took it, he just took the punishment because he knew he was innocent. So he goes there, and he like escapes a couple times, and then he has to do like a work program, so he's like a teenager now, and I guess he's meeting with Asket now. And then he the rest of the story. Basically, he travels to the Middle East. So
Yeah.
the next letter is a report that starts in India. So I'm going to read through this. This is written by Joe Tysk, who was a top-level investigator for the U.S. government, Department of Defense, and the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. So this guy, Joe Tysk, tried to basically prove this case a hoax, and he asked questions and did his own research and used his professional experience, right, as a Office of Special Investigations investigator who vets people for the highest level of security clearances in the U.S. government. That's what he did like for a living for like 30 years, right? Then he retired, and then like he later found out about Billy Meier, and he's an old guy now, and he got interested in this and he investigated it, and this is basically his report, and this is how he thought about the whole case from beginning to end. Arguably, the Billy Meier story is one of the most controversial UFO extraterrestrial cases of all time. It actually spans over 75 years, which is now, 83 years, and is still ongoing. So it's going to go, as Billy Meier is alive as of this date, and will soon turn 89 next year, actually. While many think the Billy Meier case starts in the mid-70s, 1975 to be more exact, when he started meeting with Semjase, we really need to zero in on the year 1964. That's because Billy Meier was first interviewed about UFOs in 1964 while he was in India by a reporter for the New Delhi Statesman newspaper.
It's a famous picture.
Yeah. And why is this important? It is important because what was reported in the interview lays the foundation for building the case that the Billy Meier contact story is real. Now, Joe Tisk didn't even know about these letters that I'm going over, like the first two letters and the next couple. He didn't know about this. He's starting in 1964. Is why we need to examine the 1964 newspaper article and other corroborating evidence at that time in detail before we jump ahead to 1975, the starting point where most skeptics launch their attack and call it a hoax. So let's get to the article. So this is the article, New Delhi Statesman. It's like the New York Times, right? It's like a very old newspaper in India, in New Delhi. This is the date, Wednesday, September 30th, 1964. The flying saucer man leaves Delhi by a staff reporter. Swiss claims he had visited 3 planets. So this is a picture of the newspaper, and we're going to go through it. He's going to break it down. There's a picture of Billy, or Edward Meier. He picked up his name Billy on his travels through the Middle East. Okay, so this is the clipping. Billy Meier, age 26 at this time, and known by his real name Edward Albert Meier, had been in India for about 5 months when he was approached by a reporter from the New Delhi Statesman newspaper who had heard about the strange flying saucer man. Though Meier was agreeable to being interviewed, he made it clear to the reporter that he was not seeking publicity, nor did he care if anyone believed his story. And what a story it was. Billy claimed he had not only seen objects from outer space, but had also taken photographs and even traveled in them. Such a claim on face value would quickly be dismissed by most. But Meier showed the reporter a photo album, and he had in it, according to the reporter, were about 80 photos of UFOs. Now, the first question in everyone's mind should be, where did Billy Meier get a photo album with dozens of UFO photos back in 1964? There obviously were no UFO photos R Us stores in India at that time. So how and where could he have accumulated all these photos if he didn't take them himself, as he said? Some skeptics actually answered this question with statements like he had a photo enlarger, or he had access to a photo lab or a darkroom, which is ridiculous because these quite far-fetched explanations still do not address the basic question: where did Billy Meier get a photo album with dozens of UFO photos back in 1964?
Yeah.
That's the camera he was using. Now, it's hard to take any picture,
Yeah.
let alone like of a UFO with that kind of camera,
Yeah.
I'm surprised he got anything out of that thing.
And just one thing, there's many people think they encountered this case after the year 2000 or in the year 2020, and they always say this is photoshopped, this is faked, and it's hard to compel these people because of course you can say, okay, he faked it in 1990, he faked it in 2000, and now I'm here 2020 and see this stuff and it's fake. And obviously it must be fake because it's so crazy. So I think it's important to point that out, how much technology shifted in these years where this case is existent. He was living literally in another world at this time. And yeah, go ahead. Wasn't meant to interrupt.
That camera, for most of us don't know, anyone younger than me, that camera has film in it that you have to send to get developed in a dark room, the chemicals and all this stuff. You're lucky to be able to take a picture with it.
Yeah.
Now, even if one were to admit that the logical explanation is Billy Meier took the photos himself, the next question becomes, were the photos hoaxed? To help answer this question, we now turn to two individuals who were at the location where Billy Meier claimed to have taken a number of the UFO photos, the Ashoka Ashram, a Buddhist temple where Billy had stayed during part of his time in India. What is interesting about these two individuals is they claim to have seen the same UFOs that Billy took photos of and that were in his photo album. Not only that, but these same two people related this story at the UFO Congress held in Laughlin, Nevada, back on February 29th, 1999, 35 years after the sightings and photos were claimed to have been taken. The first to tell her story at the convention was Phobal Chang, the granddaughter of the Buddhist monk who founded the Ashoka Ashram, and she remembered Billy and reported seeing the UFOs for herself at age 9. After telling her story to the attendees, Phobal's longtime friend, Sashi Raj, who had come from India, confirmed she had also seen UFOs in the skies above the Ashoka Ashram, as had two others who had worked there, including the little kid on the left, which is Phobal's brother, and her grandfather in the middle, who is Dharmawara, who was the head monk. He also saw the UFOs and maybe even had direct contact with one of the Plejaren.
I mean, why would you come out and just tell people you saw UFOs? It's like, there must be a reason. It's like, people don't do this as a, I don't know the word right now.
It's scary. I mean, it's got to be scary. It's got to take a lot of courage, you know, to come.
I'm not doing this
forward.
for a small favor. Like, I'm coming out and talking about this stuff. And so, this is like one more thing where you can see this, like one small thing where it's like two separate people. I did not know about this. Like, I know about Phoebe Chang, but I did not know about her friend. And this is like the small things who are like creating a coherent picture in the story. Okay.
All right. To put this into perspective, we have two people with nothing to gain, willing to come forward years later to tell their story, even though it was not an easy thing to do. On top of this, the connection and impact Billy Meier had made on Phobal Chang was something special, as she actually flew from the US, where she was living, to Switzerland to visit him, not once, but twice. In fact, on her second trip there, she brought her husband, and they ended up staying 2 weeks at Billy Meier's home. Let's put what we have together and see where we're at now. An easy way to do this is to apply 3 aspects used in criminal law to determine whether or not someone could be guilty of a crime, or in this case, a hoax. Those 3 aspects are means, motive, and opportunity, and we will apply each one to ascertain what is the logical conclusion as to whether or not Billy Meier perpetrated a hoax going back to the year 1964. If no hoax could be found in 1964, then a strong case can be made that there was no reason for him to perpetrate a hoax in 1975 or any time later, right? So if he's telling the truth in 1964, if we can establish that, then why would he like make up lies like 20 or 30 years later? There's no reason, like, other than he's just telling the truth the whole time.
Yes.
We will begin with the means. In 1964, Billy Meier was basically backpacking his way from country to country, earning meager amounts of money doing an assortment of jobs. At the time of the interview, the reporter noticed the only items Billy had were a few articles of clothing, a folding camera, 2 small bags, and his photo album. Not the best of times to try to get into the UFO hoaxing business when basic survival was already a challenge. For Billy Meier to fake dozens of different UFO photos, some of which he still has today, and which are clearly pictures of some type of spacecraft, would be more than just extremely difficult at the time. It would have been closer to impossible. The second and perhaps most important aspect we need to deal with is the motive. As the newspaper reporter stated in his article, and I quote, "But he clearly is not eager to talk about his experiences, which, to say the least, are remarkable. Indeed, the little that he has to say has to be pried out of him. He doesn't want publicity. He doesn't care if anyone believes him or not." Now, do you see a little difference of what's going on today?
Yeah.
Compared to like Billy not wanting publicity? Like, everybody wants publicity today, right? Everybody wants to be on, like, you know, all these podcasts and like shows and get films made about them. Billy doesn't want any of that.
Yeah, and additionally to that, there's also no business model behind this, would like fit the assumption of him doing this for money, to making a business, like we talked about all the other UFO things, or most of the other UFO things. I don't want to say all and generalize the stuff, but it's
Yeah.
like there's like, okay, you sell some books, you get some money for the book. That's like a normal thing, but there's like no business model behind where you can just, I'm doing this to get money or to get attention and something. It just doesn't match. I mean, this does not 100% prove that he's not hoaxing, but it's like the opportunity and means and how the guy is putting it out, it makes totally sense. I'm stoked for the rest of this letter, for this presentation.
So what's important to point out is that Billy Meier, while in serious need of funds, never once offered to sell any of his photos to the reporter, anyone else for that matter. If this was all a hoax, you would have expected to hear stories about how Meier had gone around telling his strange tales to others while trying to profit from it. It would be logical to assume that if he was able to produce fake UFO photos at will, he would also have been able to make money, some money from it. But there is no record of that ever being the case. So with no known motive, check that one off from the list. So he's backpacking like through the desert, you know, like. The third element is the opportunity. Meier is in an area and country he is unfamiliar with. He has no known friends or contacts, and one of the few items he has is an old camera. Yet he is somehow able to fake dozens of UFO photos without being detected and without having any known accomplice, unless his monkey was the accomplice. And since we already have other witnesses that have come forward and have reported seeing the same objects in the sky that ended up as photos in Meier's album, I think we can also put the opportunity aspect to rest as well. So where does this all lead us? And I actually think that some of his photographs from 1964 in India are like the best UFO photographs like ever. Like some of them are like really good because you see it like above the building and it's Ascot's.
Yeah.
It's Ascot's ship, you know, and you can see like the details on the ship, even from maybe because it's a black and white photo. I don't know, but it's like it's very striking to me as like a very good. You could tell it looks like a big object, like 20 or 30 feet, or you know, like maybe 7 meters in diameter. You could tell the size like based on like where it is over the building, you know.
I mean, I think additionally, I mean, we are pretty young and we don't know how this all, like how a normal picture looks, like without UFOs. Like looks so different, like the old technology and the photographs. And then we got an old picture where not many people are in the know how this stuff is actually working and how does the normal picture looks, which is done on such an old camera. And then it's a picture with a UFO, and it's even crazier. For me, there were so much pictures from the case. Yeah, maybe you can at some point you can show me like the pictures you think are the best.
I'm actually going to show you all of them.
Great, perfect.
If as far back as 1964 we have documented evidence Billy Meier had amassed a collection of UFO photos, and then 11 years later started taking clearer and more detailed UFO photos in Switzerland where he lives, is there any reason to still be skeptical? One could say yes, if it were not for the fact that in addition to the photos, Meier was also able to make films of the ET spacecraft he claims he has been in contact with. Trying to hoax still shots of UFOs is one thing. Posting a UFO film is quite another. And I like this shot because there's a tree branch in front of the camera, right? And they told him to have objects like kind of in front so you could get like perspective of distance.
This is my favorite clip, by the way, because I think where you can see the three ships, like the actual video from this, where you can see they got the different frequency of bouncing, the same thing as Wendell Stevens pointed out in one of his interviews. And I think that's like the best video because it shows three different objects which are moving in a different way. And it's like, from my perspective, it's impossible to fake this actually. But yeah, I mean, go ahead.
And you're right. It's a good point, but you have to kind of like look really closely and like think about it, you know, like a lot of people just see it in like a clip, right? A couple seconds of it, but they don't really like, you got to like zoom, you have to kind of like almost like put yourself there and like think hard. You can't just like, we see so much media every day, right? And it just flashes before our eyes. But this, you kind of have to like think a little deeper, like behind like what they're trying to do. And they also did on purpose, they did demonstration flights. And they did things to like look strange to us, so people would kind of like say it could be fake. They did that like on purpose, kind of. So I'll keep going here. We're talking about the films here. Enter Wally Gentleman. At the time, Wally Gentleman viewed UFO photos and films that Billy Meier had taken, and he had already been involved with special effects for over 35 years. He was such an accomplished expert in the art of special effects that Stanley Kubrick specifically sought out and hired Wally Gentleman to be the director of special photographic effects for the epic sci-fi movie 2001: A Space Odyssey. He worked at this position for a year and a half until the film was finished. While in charge of all the special effects, Gentleman was also responsible for building the model spacecraft used in the movie. Needless to say, if anyone at the time could debunk faked UFO photos and films, it was Wally Gentleman. Here's what Wally Gentleman found and reported after viewing the Billy Meier material and quoted from the book Light Years, an investigation into the extraterrestrial experiences of Edward Meier by Gary Kinder. After studying the films, Gentleman concluded that considering the expertise necessary, the logistics, and the expense, a one-armed man with no assistance could not possibly have produced the footage. Billy Meier lost his left arm in a bus accident in 1965 while in Turkey. That's the bottom line of everything, he said. This Meier really had to have a fleet of clever assistants, at least 15 people, who would know what the interface reflections of a shiny object were at certain times of the day, how to support these objects so that wires are not seen, how to rig it, how to watch it, and stand by with their little air guns to spray the strings when they begin showing up. What we would do is go out and shoot the scene and then bring it back to the studio and then shoot the object onto that film by duplication processes, which is a very sophisticated procedure. It's difficult to do on 35 millimeter, even worse with the 8 millimeter film he was using. And the equipment was totally out of his means. If somebody once wanted me to cheat something along those lines, $30,000 would probably do it. But this is in a studio where the equipment exists. The equipment would cost another $50,000. So at the time the films were taken, Billy was barely scraping by, and just making ends meet was a challenge. I think the one telling part of all this is that a single man, this is Wally Gentleman continuing, that a single man with one arm, if he indeed was on his own, could not have done it. I think it would be miraculous for a person with even two arms to do that sort of work by himself up on a mountaintop. Even if you get a balloon and you hang your object on a fine piece of thread underneath, it's going to blow in any direction it wants to go. And with a lot of those pictures where you've got 3 or 4 flying saucers, you would need balloons with strings of varying length. Otherwise, you could pick out where the string comes from. It would be very difficult to do those shots in that sort of condition outside. And the fall of the land makes it very risky to do anything like that. It's all that sort of complication that leads me to think that the objects he's photographed and filmed were there independently, and he simply snapped the shutter. And there's one.
Occam's razor.
Yeah, exactly. And there's one of the India photos. To summarize what Wally Gentleman, one of the foremost special effects experts in the world at the time, said, there was no way Billy Meier could have faked the films. Anyone doubting this assertion, read what he said again. Billy Meier simply did not have the means to do what it would have taken to produce the UFO films that Wally Gentleman reviewed, and about which he gave his professional and expert opinion. In addition to Wally Gentleman, over the years, there were a number of other experts in different fields who, after doing extensive research, could only say that if Meier was perpetrating a hoax, they had no idea how he was doing it. Others, not wanting to say they were stumped, offered that maybe he had real-size models hung from a helicopter as a possible explanation for how he faked it. Seriously? There's another one from India.
Yeah, to fake this whole thing at this point in the story where we are right now, it's like even more crazy scenario instead of him taking the photos. That's what I've gathered from this, from his synopsis.
Of course, all this is still not good enough for the diehard skeptics. What the skeptics prefer to do, instead of looking at the best hard evidence that would support the authenticity of the UFO photos and videos, is to only zero in on what they think proves the entire Billy Meier UFO story to be a hoax. Now here, make this a little smaller here. These are two pictures that are not the same. And this was one of the photos that was manipulated by
Yes.
the intelligence services. And the easiest way to tell is look on the top photo on the woman on the right. She has a big white shirt collar. And down at the bottom photo, the woman on the right has no shirt collar.
It's totally different.
Totally different. They took two pictures and they superimposed them and did double exposure. And there's even on the top photo, there's a third person on the right.
Yeah.
On the top. But then down there, it's like they like cut it off or something. There's like different lines in the background. They're just different. And
so you tell me this, the bottom picture is from this TV show. And the upper picture is it the original picture, or is it a superimposed one where they put both of them on top of each other?
I think the top is from the TV show, and the bottom is the real one of Ask It Nira in like the Doll universe.
Okay,
I don't know, but Billy had the woman Michelle de la Farve.
Yeah,
come.
She was there.
Switzerland.
And are you sure? Because I think I mean, I don't know shit, to be honest, but the bottom one looks like from the TV show, because I think it's actually, but it's like, this is crazy. Like, how they find a shot? There must be some intelligent thing going on here, because how they find a shot which is so similar and using this shot to troll
like we can do it today. We could do like a reverse image search or like an image match on the computer now.
Yeah, now it's, but I mean, they're like ahead of us, I guess. At this time,
you need to be a darkroom photography expert, and you can play with things, and you can.
Okay, but it's very interesting to see these two pictures side by side. I think that's perfect. I never saw this at this perspective. It really shows that it's not the same picture.
I think both of these are manipulated, right?
Yeah.
I think they're both, because he went out on this big trip with the Plejaren, and he took like a couple like rolls of film. And then I think everything he got back was like kind of blurry like this, because you could tell like they're not like the other photos. And I think they just swapped. I don't know, like he didn't like check them when he got back, and like he just put them in a box under the bed, and he never looked at them. And I think
I mean, Wendell Stevens, he was saying when he was going to Switzerland and he was taking pictures and like literally transferred the material from Switzerland to the US. And he was saying every time he was going there, he had to like encounter some people, CIA or whatever, and they took the pictures, checked the pictures. And since I heard that, I mean, they could do whatever with the pictures. Like, they could do whatever. And I mean, he can do anything against that. But yeah, I think these pictures, this is like the most critical point on this whole case, because people say, okay, he took pictures, the pictures are not good. It's like, it's some shenanigans there. But if you go really deep, I mean, I think we can talk 2 hours on the picture manipulation thing. And I think I will do an episode on this, like actually just only looking at the hard evidence and putting all the controversial stuff together. And I would love to have your input on that as well, but that's for another time.
All right, let's continue with Joe. However, any good investigator knows that when looking at evidence, you look at all the evidence and not just what you think will make the case you want it to make.
Yes.
And contrary to what many think, it's not how much apparently incriminating evidence you have that wins the day. It's whether or not you have even one single piece of evidence that proves your position. To better explain this, let's use a hypothetical example, of which there are actual similar cases on record. In this example, let's say someone is shot and killed outside a nightclub, and next to the body is found a driver's license with a photo of John Doe, who has been known to have quarreled with the victim. There are also 2 eyewitnesses that saw the shooting, and then, after looking through police mugshots, both are certain that the John Doe identified in the driver's license photo was the shooter. On top of this, the police are able to determine that the suspect had owned a handgun of the same caliber used in the shooting. Based on what appears to be concrete evidence against John Doe, many, including law enforcement professionals, would say they have a solid case to have him arrested and eventually convicted of the crime in a court of law. There is, however, only one little problem. John Doe has one single piece of evidence that trumps everything else. He claims, and it is later proven, that at the time of the murder, he was 1,000 miles away attending a wedding. So what looked like conclusive evidence proved to be wrong, and it only took one irrefutable piece of evidence to exonerate John Doe and prove him innocent. Rather than looking at just the parts of the story that may be controversial and can be debated, it's important to keep an open mind and not come to any conclusion until all the evidence is reviewed, especially when there is more than enough evidence to support the Billy Meier UFO contact claim, if one were only to look. Even if it were determined that among the massive collection of Billy Meier UFO photos, there were some photos of models or pictures of other objects that did not support Meier's story, this still in no way invalidates the authenticity of the photos and films that experts like Wally Gentleman say are real. When using logical deductive reasoning, an argument can still be valid, even if one or more of its premises are false. In other words, if a claim was made that all of Billy Meier's photos were real, and it was later determined not to be true, we don't discard the evidence that does support the case, which is what the skeptics often do. And I love this photo in the back because that is definitely a plane in the background.
Yeah, I never saw this photo.
This was one of the ones that they took to the United States, Wendell took, and they had it analyzed, and they saw that the jet. I have a whole thing about this on my other website about this, the whole story about this. We could talk about another time, but
Yeah,
the
you
jet
mentioned it.
has a exhaust plume in the infrared when they do an analysis on this photo. They zoom in on it. So again, it is all the evidence that needs to be reviewed, but not all the evidence needs to support the case to make it authentic. And that's a fact. Assuming people are now accepting the proposition that Billy Meier did take authentic UFO photos of UFOs, and even authentic films of these spacecraft, we now must ask the big question. In addition to taking real photos and making real films of UFOs, which are actually ET spacecraft, did Billy Meier ever have contact with extraterrestrials? And this is the picture in the beginning of the Teufel coming out of the pear-shaped ship, right? This is Svath coming out in the Langensingen. This is based on the descriptions, but this is what this lady was talking about when she spied on him as a little kid. And that's him. And this is like this picture, which was drawn like much later, describes exactly what that lady was talking about in the letter, what she saw. And someone who hated Billy, right? Remember, he had made this claim beginning way back in 1964 with the interview he gave to the reporter in India. To reason this out, we can conclude that the only way Billy Meier could have taken the photos and made the films that he did was if he had prior knowledge of when and where the UFO photos were going to appear. It would have been literally impossible for him to just coincidentally be at the right place and right time to have collected all the UFO photos and films he did over the years. Somehow, Billy Meier had to have been contacted in advance about when and where to be, and the only ones that could have provided him with that information were the ones aboard or controlling the UFOs. Rather than trying to elaborate on this, I will leave it to the reader to see if there are enough dots to connect here, as I think there are. And this is a beautiful drawing that someone made. I think it was Christian Krokowski. I'm not sure, but their name is somewhere. Oh, here it is. This person, you're awesome. Max Ronaldo. Thank you for that beautiful photo. So in conclusion, I would say that based on all of the available evidence and expert testimony, the only logical conclusion one could come to is that Billy Meier has taken numerous authentic photos of UFOs and, more importantly, actual films of UFOs. And he has done it over a span of many years. Now, here's some, and if you're watching this, you can pause it and look at them. I'm just going to go through. Here's one set. Here's another set. Here's another set. And they're all in sequence, right? There's like nothing in between. They're like No one else
Yeah.
has like sequences. He has like the tripods in front, the landing tracks. Here's another set, more
Yeah,
landing
this
tracks,
is
footprint,
wild.
laser gun.
This laser gun stuff, this is wild. Like if the first video I did it on the case, I was saying, is this really helping the case? Is this really helping the case, showing this gun
There's
in this
pictures
stuff?
of like
It's crazy.
more laser. There's so many pictures that like I never knew about. You
Yeah.
know, they're like taking pictures of like the tree and like the
The
investigator
infamous six finger hand on the carving.
car.
Yeah.
Yeah, more landing tracks, and there's like more like they burnt it into the snow, like they landed in the snow on the ice. And then he used to have like Doberman pinchers as guard
Yeah, I
dogs near
think
the
I never saw
facility.
these snow pictures. I think they're totally new to me.
I mean,
But
there's so many of them.
there's like a 2 hour video on YouTube. I think I'm not sure, but he says he put all. I think it was gas meter or something. He always uploaded the stuff, and he's
Yeah.
like he was doing like a 2 hour thing where every picture was in chronological order. That was pretty
Wow.
neat.
Wow. And here's more just general stuff, and then some more landing tracks. And then here's some more of the light ship, the Andromedans, and then more landing tracks. And then we started to get into the wedding cake UFO. And here's more, and the wedding cake UFO, and the tractor again, the wedding cake UFO at night, and then some of the house. And then there's more, right? And then there's some people taking group photos, Shirley MacLaine, I think. And then the little footprints again, the little guy, and the light ships, and then the
Santa
bullet
Claus
holes.
was visiting as well. I
Santa
see.
Claus visited. Yeah, it could have been. And now he's holding near the top, right? He's showing like the bullet hole. Like, so Wendell, imagine you go to investigate the case to see if it's real or a hoax, and you're sitting out front in Billy, and a bullet hits the wall, and it's pointing right next to his head, and there's a hole in the wall, and then he has the bullet in his hand. Like, how many people, right, have had 28 assassination attempts because they're talking
Yeah.
about UFOs, right? And then how many people can show the bullet? Like, if people say like he's like he hoaxed the assassination attempts. Well, he's like showing you like the bullet, and like the
Yeah.
investigator's there, and the investigator almost got shot too.
Yeah, I
So,
mean it's so crazy. There's like layers of craziness on top of each other because I was thinking there was one occasion where some guy like threw a knife on him
yeah,
and trying to kill him. And
yeah.
when I was reading this, I was thinking like, is this serious? Like like this is
Yeah.
directly out of a comic.
And I think
But yeah,
I think the last ones might be like the first ones. I think the bottom row on the left, I think that's his first meeting with Semyasi in 1975. So maybe the photos are in like reverse order. I'm not sure. They're not in like chronological order, perfect, but I
yeah.
think that's one of the first ones in 1975 that he took at his first like January 28th like meeting with Semyasi, I think. And then there's the metal samples, which we just found. Billy just found again mysteriously, and Michael Fotlander like just
And these were
in like
new.
4K high definition, like zooms in on him.
Okay, I thought it was just showing old stuff, but these were new stuff. Actually, that's
Yeah, it's
crazy. That's
as far
crazy.
as I know, from what I hear from the inside, Billy had them all along, and
Of
he
course,
just
yeah.
forgot. He just forgot he has like his house is just full of stuff. Like
Yeah.
he like found it, and like they forgot he had it. Or the other explanation is the Plejaren like teleported them back, and he found them again, and then they took them back away again. So he doesn't have them anymore, but I think he just had some that they didn't take, and he just has boxes and boxes of pictures
Yeah.
and articles and stuff, and he
And
found
how is this working? Are they doing like some, I mean, we got the Marcel Vogel stuff back in the day, but is there like some attempts to do some, I
no,
don't
because
know.
the Plejaren took them away. They just wanted us to take high resolution, video, and then they took them away again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the end of Joe's thing. There was also much more corroborating evidence to support the Billy Meier case that is not covered in this article, but can easily be found at various sources on the internet. Of course, none of this will ever be enough for the die-hard skeptics. Once people take a side or a stance, as they often do with politics and religion, literally nothing will change their position, no matter how strong the evidence that is presented. I will end by saying I did not write this article with the intention it would change even a single skeptic, because I know it won't. It was simply written for those with an open mind, reasonable intelligence, and a desire for the truth. And Joe Tysk served with the U.S. Air Force Office of Special Investigations during the late 60s and early 70s. During his assignment with the OSI, he supervised hundreds of personnel investigations at the highest level for the U.S. Air Force and other agencies of the Department of Defense. While his time and experience with the OSI was helpful in researching and evaluating the Billy Meier case, he doesn't believe any special training or knowledge is required to properly research and evaluate the Billy Meier UFO story. Just follow the evidence, use logic and common sense, and he believes you will come to the right decision. So, thank you, Joe Tysk. Now, speaking of people in the intelligence community, we have another letter here from an anonymous person. And this was written to Wendell Stevens in 1989. Okay, so we don't know who wrote this. Okay, and I found it on a little corner of a little old website, and it's very interesting. We can't say who it is, but we just know it was received in February 1989 and is mailed to Wendell Stevens. Okay, so here we go. Almost nobody has ever seen this too. Dear Mr. Stevens, a friend of mine, Tom Farr, dropped off a copy of Message from the Pleiades. I found it very interesting. Tom had previously given me another book about Billy Meier, which was also interesting. The following is information you might find interesting. The American government did what could be called an extensive soft-touch investigation of Billy when he first attracted public attention to himself to find out if the contact was in fact for real. The decision was in his favor. It was extensive investigation because of the unusual features in Billy's case. Billy, as an individual and a citizen of another country, had an American intelligence gathering organization look him over from asshole to appetite. He passed the inspection rather well, but has not gone off the deep end as predicted by the personality profile done on him. It, of course, goes without saying that he had the intelligence gathering community of his own country look him over. The American investigation was of the light touch vanity or variety, meaning use no force, make no scars, and leave no traces of the investigation, which is to say, play tourist, pack a camera, and take a lot of pictures, tell a lot of lies, and ask a lot of questions. Host countries' intelligence systems get pissed if they catch you screwing off on their turf. So do not accuse us of any break-ins and that type of thing, because it happened back in the days when Billy was in fact very liberal with what he gave away. Your book indicates that he has upgraded his record keeping since the early days. In the other book on Billy, there was a big deal about the films and having them tested. In one specific incident, the film tested was believed to be a copy and not the original negative as Billy thought. Sorry about that. The way we got copies of Billy's pictures was by paying off the man who handled the film processing for Billy. The man simply ordered a second set of pictures for us and a second copy of the negatives at an attractive profit, and the man often had copies made for himself. In a couple of cases, we took the original copy of the negative for the type of lab checks that you wanted to make. We also sent some garbage film through the same processing company by the same store under Billy's name to keep the boys doing the film processing honest. We did establish that there was a little hanky-panky going on at the processing plant and or in the mail someplace. Someone else was getting off with the first copy of the negatives most of the time. Several times, according to the experts, our copy of the negative would be about the fifth one. All intelligence communities are well aware that vast volumes of bullshit comes and goes in the UFO contactee game as part of the turf, but pictures make strong evidence, which is almost impossible to fake, because pictures are the quickest way to find who, in fact, is telling the truth. They often get stolen. Or why screw around with the bullshit when the proof is in the film? The intelligence gathering people are also aware of how to intercept mail and bribe store owners. When the bribe was set up, we did not know how agreeable Billy was going to be about passing out samples. Are you still with me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll keep going. In the book, you touched on one of the most important of all things about UFOs, and may not have realized the true importance to the history of UFOs in what you said. Page 219, quote, "The visitor anticipated, and they immediately associated them with the Antichrist of Christian literature and wanted nothing more to do with the situation," end quote. The problem that Billy had with Carl Veit of Wiesbaden is the key to understanding most of the American government and Western Europe government's approach to UFOs. In 1945, when it was first proven that UFOs were real from space, operated by intelligent beings, most of whom were human in form, the American government did a soft touch check to see what the great unwashed public would say and how the public would respond to UFOs and space people if the president informed the public over national radio. The results of the investigation would truly frost a thinking man's balls. The public's response was all bad. 97% of the public took one of two approaches: shoot first and ask questions later, or call the UFOs agents of the devil, the prince of the power of the air, the Antichrist, and set up an even worse situation where UFOs would become a real negative religious issues. Now, Philippe, what are they talking about in the social media? Are UFOs demons? They're doing the
Yeah,
same thing now, the religious
yeah.
people. They're doing the exact same thing now. This is what this guy's talking about in 1989. And they did a poll, and it's either people want to shoot them or call it the devil, which is what that
Yeah.
lady did in the
But
second letter I read.
but it only works if you are like baseline religious. If you're not like affected by religion, you don't care about the devil, basically. So it's like a
Right.
weird paradox thing, I think.
There's
And
so
if
much
you
things about
and if you know
angels and
more,
UFOs are demons and like
yeah,
fallen angels and demons and the devil and all this stuff going on, you know?
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, just go ahead. It's okay. Go on.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right, and they're doing that. They're doing that today. So they might call UFOs agents of the devil or demons or whatever, the Antichrist, right? Where UFOs would become a real negative religious issue. What was surprising was seeing the response of the religious leadership, which was by far worse than the general public's response. It could only be called grim news. The science community showed no leadership at all, just a super case of stupidity and prejudice. As you might guess, the original investigations were by military men under orders from General Marshall under the direction of the president. And if you know your military men, finding one who wants to get into a fight with the preachers over what is or what is not the Antichrist, when neither of the military man nor the preacher know a hell of a lot of factual information about either the Antichrist or the UFOs, would be a lot like sending a blind person out to spot UFOs. Just as soon as the blind man spots the first UFO, the military will get into the fight with the preachers over the Antichrist. To say that the military seriously avoided the potential conflict with the religious community would be an understatement. To say that the military community successfully avoided a fight with the religious community over UFOs would be an accurate observation. To say that the military was real damn sneaky about how they informed the public about UFOs would also be an accurate observation. Now this one makes me think too. The military mind will draw conclusions that the religious mind will not. The military mind quickly figured out that if the UFOs wanted to take over the world, they had the speed, science, and firepower to do so. Hence, the military concluded UFOs were working by other rules. The general nature of the rules of the individuals in the UFOs would be working under could be projected based on previous contact records, however skimpy these records. So there were some records, and they're just following the records, right? In other words, the military figured it was a safe assumption that the UFOs would not radically change their actions in modern times, but would stick to the casual and miss system of the past, or like, I guess, like cat and mouse kind of game. The military mind drew one conclusion: the single most important thing to do in the situation it was in, namely sitting on some hot, highly controversial information, was to keep the general public from a bad response by controlling the public's response to UFOs. In other words, to keep that damn religious mentality out of the issues involved as long as possible. But Do not ever say that the military never did anything about informing the public about the existence of UFOs. That will mean you have not figured out the methods used by the government to spread the word about UFOs. You might say the military took the Bible's advice about not to let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. The military pulled the very same trick that Moses pulled. When he did not like the attitude of his troops after crossing the Red Sea, he took the time to grow a new batch of troops whose response and thinking was more to his liking. And that is what the military did about UFOs. Now, I also think that they did this through movies like Superman, Thor, Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Like those are all extraterrestrial heroes, right? And
Yeah.
they're not like the enemy, you know. There's also like extraterrestrial enemies too, but I think they make like the good guys. They're like in movies, like the good guys are the aliens now, you know, and they look like human, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it was like Independence Day and stuff where just like evil, like nasty aliens coming and taking over the
Right.
planet. And yeah, now it's a little bit the other way around. But there's like commercials, Super Bowl commercials with six different ET type of thing. It was what's going on? But yeah,
it's becoming very, very mainstream. I think the public is getting like very used to it now through exactly what you're saying, like Super Bowl commercials and, you know, other things. So let me continue. The military also found a problem as bad or worse than the religious mind. Have you ever noticed scientists are about as bad as the preachers when it comes to UFOs, especially in the old days? What you missed in the little detail is the little detail that scientists of the old pre-UFO school got their basic concept of the universe from an insane preacher, a Catholic pope. That basic concept is the idea that man is alone in the universe and the only intelligent life in the universe. Going into the Dark Ages, all societies leaving records in any amount left some kind of UFO record. Those that left verbal histories left verbal records of UFOs. In effect, it was known prior to the Dark Ages that man was not alone in the universe, that other intelligent beings were out there screwing around. Even the damn cave and rock drawings show UFO activity. The Greeks and Romans also knew that the world was round. The Greeks had even tried to measure the size of the earth using wells and sunlight. But the insane Catholic Pope decided that he was the most important thing in the universe, and that the universe revolved around him. The basic idea that the world was flat was imposed upon the world by an insane Pope, which in effect made the earth the center of the universe. That Pope also expanded on the powers of the Pope, in effect saying that he was not only at the center of the universe, he was all that was good, smart, and holy at the center of the universe. The Pope also pitched the idea that man was alone in the universe. That, of course, left the Pope, the smartest man in the universe.
Yeah.
Now, this is funny because I was raised Catholic. When the science-religion fight of the early science days started, science in general won out. The one idea that the scientists took from an insane Pope, which they loved as an idea and used as their very own idea, was the idea that man is alone in the universe. The idea that man is alone in the universe, if valid, would make the scientist the smartest and best educated beings in the universe. The science community's response to the coming of UFOs and the possible drop in status from the smartest thing in the universe was somewhat worse than the religious community's response to UFOs. UFOs rather obviously put the modern scientist in the position of being a backward person in knowledge on a backward world, and farther insulted the scientist by not bothering to make any contact with them. Few, if any, of the scientists involved were willing to give up their status as the smartest and best educated beings in the universe. Most of the older ones died with that idea in their head, the idea that man on Earth was the only intelligent life in the universe. And that's like what they teach in school, you know, like if you go to college, like that's what they're going to teach you, because that's what's in the book, you know, like what's in the book.
We are living in our own manufactured reality, bubble of reality, literally. And I mean, I think the basic thing is if we encounter another intelligent species, maybe it's like just few 500 years more advanced. Like we encounter basically a mirror image of us. It would still destroy our whole power structure because we got another neutral force which we can compare our all the mistakes, all the shenanigans, they would come to light. And that's why, I mean, there are these stories, the good ETs approached the US government and they said, yeah, we can have contact, we can have communication, but we won't exchange tech stuff. And yeah, they said no. That's basically what I was gathering. Like they said no, and that's why we don't have it. I mean, it's like it would make sense. It's like these people don't want to lose their power.
They don't want to lose their status. And this is
Yeah.
exactly what he's saying here. I'll continue. The existence of UFOs truly lowers the status of the religious and scientific leaders of the world. They resisted such a lowering in their status, particularly the scientists. And here I should clear something up. Mention the word intelligence gathering community, and most people go into some kind of potty training shock, and they think they have gone back to messing their pants and are about to be caught at it. Doing what is called spying on people is an expensive and time-consuming operation, generally involving a lot of people. It is surprising how many people think that they have some kind of secret that makes them worth spying on. Casual surveillance or simple information gathering can be done much cheaper. The total amount of information needed to make a high degree of accuracy decision about someone like Billy is, in fact, not as much as a person would imagine. In effect, in the early days, if you showed up at Billy's place, knowing enough about good manners to bring as much food as you eat, wash as many dishes as you get dirty, and just help around the house or yard a bit, it was possible to get all the UFO information desired from Billy and be treated as a respected guest. Looking into Billy with a professional eye will quickly show that there are a couple of things which are not totally normal for this type of contact. The screwball hours and the many changes in location make it somewhat different from most contacts, which generally proceed on a casual but regular basis with some consideration for the contactee. Billy probably holds the record for more bad weather contacts than anyone else. His case has some screwball features, but it had some very good pictures. In a shared UFO information pool with other countries, including India, it was noticed that Billy got his contacts whenever a woman, the Indians were watching, was missing. It was speculated that Billy's female contact could have been one of two women that the India authorities were watching. One was a tall, dark-haired woman with a very fair complexion, who, according to what the Indians could find out, had been working in the area for about 200 years. The other woman was a short, somewhat dumpy blonde with kind of a flat face. Every time the dumpy blonde left India, Billy had a contact. Because the Indian surveillance was of the soft touch type and far from complete, nothing was ever established. But for a period of about 2 to 3 years, there was a one-to-one relationship between the blonde leaving India and Billy having a contact. And there is something else you might figure out or work on. It is Billy stumbling onto military men looking at his contact sites. For all their science, the clowns in the UFO, he means the Plejarens, do not always work out everything to perfection. So you were asking before, how did Svath let this woman spy on Eddie as a kid?
Yeah.
They're not perfect. They don't always, have their shields up, or maybe they're not always paying attention, or maybe they're just too busy or whatever. As a military officer, you were exposed to a few classes in physics. As the book says about the rocks and the gold, the physics are the same, this world or some other. That means that what is known about physics here will also apply up there. The UFO has a power source, which is obviously related to gravity and electromagnetic properties of physics. That is all packed into a small space and affects the world around it. Add to that some cloaking device and a few stray things, and you have a ship, which will give off a few things in the line of radiation. If the dogs can spot the UFOs, then use dogs, which we did around some military and science bases in the early days. If the TV flutters when one comes by, start from there for making a detection device. It logically follows that about the time that the governments got into the business of knowing about, they also got into learning how to detect the things when they flew by. And it was a dog whose action told us that the flying saucer had a clocking or cloaking devices. It did not turn out to be all that hard to make a detection device. The Swiss government has such devices and obviously uses them. The last time I had anything to do with such devices, which was a long time ago, and the devices were physically very large because their radios had vacuum tubes. They could be rigged to do several different things, and the American government was screwing with a model that would give the general direction the UFO was traveling. By now, they could be the size of a pack of smokes and give direction along with the make and model of the UFO. In the late 50s, the late 1950s, we could differentiate between about 4 types of UFOs based on how they affected our devices. If I remember some of the information coming out of Billy's area, the Dolls, which is Askett's people, would normally send out a couple of other ships to scout the area, sometimes several days in advance, before the contact ship showed up. At that time, the devices the Swiss had could tell the difference between the 2 types of ships normally used. It could also tell the difference between several of the small ball-shaped probes that might be sent out. Now, actually, in the contact reports, they actually said eventually that they would send scout ships out in advance to like scout out a meeting place before the meetings. So this guy actually found out from the other side, which is crazy.
The telemeter discs and stuff like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know it to be a fact that the Swiss government has observations of ET UFOs. The Swiss, in fact, probably have the best observation of ET UFOs of any country in the world, but that is speculation on my part. And here I should add something. Within the governments of the world, how many I do not know, but based on the patterns, probably most of the reasonable governments, there has been observations of ET UFOs coming from space. But within any government, there will exist 2 possible sets of information. The 2 are not necessarily the same person or department. So what I think he's talking about here is like the Navy versus the Air Force, or
Yeah.
the FBI versus the CIA or whatever. So they keep everything compartmentalized and secret. You mentioned something in passing, and we're almost done with this. You mentioned something in passing that was interesting. It was your being spied on. I have no idea as to who is doing what to whom in your case, but I do know that there was once a proposal put out to step on UFO investigators and contactees a little bit to keep the field from expanding too much, so the real contacts would not be lost in the pure bullshit. As someone who has been in government, you can probably spot the conflicting and overlapping authorities that tend to keep showing up in cases like yourself, who is Wendell Stevens. You never outright ask the question, what the hell is naval intelligence doing in UFOs? But if you do, they were the initiating authority and the solution of the problem of the old Foo Fighters of World War II and the boys who proved UFOs were from space. Once an intelligence gathering community gets the initiating authority status in a field, especially if the job is dumped off onto them, they are damned hard to pry out of that field. Within the structure of the American UFO community, there are a lot of stories running around. If you ever have the time and chance or inclination, you might look up the one piece of semi-hard evidence about a crashed UFO. It is the Brownsville, Texas saucer, which was a very old case, dating back to right after World War II. That ship came wobbling by Army Air Force Base going about 10 miles an hour. They first picked it up on radar when it was about 40 miles away, which gave them vast amounts of time. Then, with the field glass, binoculars, as it approached, and finally as a visual. They had enough time that they were able to get a chase plane up in the air to follow the saucer to where it crashed, about 10 miles deep in Mexico. Their first action was and this is just south of Elon Musk's starbase in Texas. This is like just over the border from the starbase in Texas, by the way, the SpaceX. Their first action was to get a parachute rigger into a plane and jump him out over the crash site with a stencil and a can of red paint to mark USA Air Force on the side of the saucer so we could claim it was ours in case the Mexicans showed up. That shit was
it's the
dragged
most American thing ever. Yeah.
That's the most American thing
Yeah.
ever. That ship was dragged back to the US by a caterpillar. which is like the construction, you know.
Yeah.
It left one hell of a skid trail. From the ground, the skid trail cannot be seen because the government paid some Indians I don't know, some amount of money. I'm not sure what the amount was to replant the ground and hid all traces of that drag trail. But it can be seen from the air. If seen from the air, it will be a very straight line that is almost due north and south. At the south end of the skid trail, there is an east-west gully, and just south of the gully is a small ridge or very little hill. That small hill has a north-south ridge on it. The saucer came to rest on the east side of that ridge, up against the slope of the hill, or at the base of the very little hill. Because the drag trail could be seen from the air, the Indians were hired to make other trails on the ground. As a confusion factor, the true drag trail is the only straight one in the group. This letter is long enough. Lots of luck with what you're doing. Respectfully, we don't know who. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, go to the top of the letter, please. Like to the first page. Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was just something that was mailed. You could see Genesis 3 Publishing, P.O. Box JJ, Munns Park, Arizona. So that was where like Genesis 3 was like the publisher of the books, like I guess
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, it sounds like he just want to exchange some information with Randall Stevens. Because I think it's very interesting that they were able to. I mean, it's logical that they were able to see the different chips and like make measurements and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, normally we would think they are so much evolved, the Plejaren in that case, and like 100 years or 50 years should make no difference. But there are all these things like it seems like they're like pretty much like us. It's always mentioned, they're so high evolved they can't even be here for like 2 hours because the low frequencies would make them feel sick or something. But there's still no gods. It's just they're just on another level of evolution, and they're making mistakes and more mistakes. They're just I don't know. I think they're just like not so far away, but still like I don't know how to put it, but
they're more mature, definitely more mature, you know.
Yeah, but they're still captured in the physical stage.
They're still flesh and blood.
Yeah,
they're still flesh and blood humans.
And my point was, just to finish this quick, and my point was with the laser gun, for example. I think there was information that they said this was just even old tech, old weaponry, or like an old handgun. And I think if you see this picture and you see like half of the ET basically with the gun in hand, I think this is one of the most wildest pictures ever. And I think to myself, even if this is real, like, is this done themselves a favor with putting this picture out? It's just like people always say, okay, aliens, they must be so different, they must be not humanoid. And in the end of this, I want to touch on a subject like general ET races and all the extraterrestrial races which like are involved in the story. Like you talk about the Andromedans and like the small people, and I want to expand a little bit more on the humanoid aspect, like on the humanoid blueprint, which looks like it's very prevalent in our universe. And we even got like DNA scientists like Cricks who were saying like the DNA soup on our planet, there was not even remotely enough time to create such a diverse type of humanity, literally. And this all is like something which resonates with material in the case. And this is like one of the most part where I'm the most curious. And like other things, for example, just we can continue in a second. But but okay, we will touch on this on the end of the thing. We've got another letter. Sorry.
I love those topics. And
a little bit off track here.
Interesting thing, that's all right. The interesting thing about this letter that stood out to me also was this guy is saying that the American, the Swiss, and India are all sharing intelligence on this. So this is a test, a quiz, to see if you were paying attention from the very beginning of when I started. So this is another letter here. It's only one page. This is the letter here. And it's signed by the person at the bottom. It's from May 2023. So let's see if you're paying attention.
Okay.
Dear Mr. Meier, I am the son of the man you knew as a photographer under the name Alois, but I do not want to mention his family name because I do not want my name to be dragged into the dirty business that was done to you. I am very sorry that you are being scolded as a liar and a cheat all over the world, because I am convinced that everything you say is true. I was only 11 years old at that time and did not know what was really happening.
So just to stop here, like, so the Alois, like Alois, it's in German, I guess. This is like it was mentioned at like at the start where you was talking, where like all these people are like actually
Yep.
doing conspiratorial stuff against the little Eddie.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, this is like the son of the
I'm
photographer.
bringing it back full
Okay, yeah,
circle.
yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Bringing it
Yeah.
back full circle. I only know everything when my father took me into his confidence and he remorsefully confessed to me what really happened. But I also have to say that my father was practically forced by the Americans to manipulate your slides and make falsehoods in them because he was heavily financially dependent on America and he had business ties with America. He received all your originals of the slides through a man named Martin Sorge, who had them from your wife, who had obviously stolen them from you and was probably not well disposed against you, just as the man Sorge was not. I know that my father, who died in 1998, received the slides for processing in relation to their falsification, but this was arranged by the Americans who forced him to copy the slides and then falsify them. I am now sending you the folder that I received from my father and have kept until today, where there are still prints of their many slides, but some of them have already been edited by my father and therefore no longer correspond to the originals that were taken away by the Americans after the falsification of copies. There are also slides that are not theirs that the Americans already brought with them, but which were not genuine, but which were marked as theirs and distributed. The numbering of the slides is also not theirs because they came from my father. The falsified copies were then returned to Martin Sorge, and he was told to return them to your wife and not to say that she only received falsifications back, which she unnoticeably foisted on you again, and which you then passed on yourself to another person for safekeeping, but who embezzled your material, as I was told. My father then told you by telephone before his death what had really happened, and that you then only received copies of the slides back, as well as that he was sorry for his actions. Under a lying pretext, and probably also out of hatred, you were cleverly harmed, but my father said that the falsifications he had made were not very serious and only of such a nature that they could only be detected by the most precise inspections. I will now tell them all this and assure you that I am well disposed towards them. May 25th, 2023.
Oh, that's pretty recent. Damn.
Up.
That's crazy. That's like, yeah. Yeah, that's actually the stuff I was looking for like a few months ago. I was trying to get some, but yeah, I see you got some stuff at hand. That's pretty insane. Yeah, crazy stuff.
And then just to follow up, to go into his wife, this is also in Contact Report 779. This is a picture of his ex-wife, and there's just some examples of her being witness and saying she witnessed everything. So number one, Calliope Meier is listed by name in 18 UFO-related events with other witnesses present, listed here, and then there's the sites, and then here's a list. That big circle in the red is all the different like events she was at, and her name is listed there. She's on record for witnessing not one or two, but 12 different types of events related to the Meier contacts. This is documented with other people, most evidence which has several other witnesses present. Okay.
Yeah.
Number two, she has signed witness affidavits. Okay. This is February 3rd, 1979. Description: Calliope Meier walks into the living room of the center. To her fright, she then sees a shape with a beard who is dressed in a gray suit. At the neck, the suit has a circular gap that serves for a helmet. The man, however, doesn't wear a helmet. Obviously, the man himself is also frightened With his left hand, he then presses on an appliance on his belt and disappears. She then realizes she has seen Ptah, one of Meier's extraterrestrial friends.
Yeah, we know what that belt does. Yeah.
You know about that.
Yeah,
But I just
yeah.
want to read it because I want to read it because this is her words.
Sure.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
this is her. This is her writing. This is her writing it. This is her signature. It's her name, her date, everything, right? And it only takes a minute. It was yesterday, Billy's birthday on the 3rd of February, 1979, when I, Calliope Meyer, at around 2:30 p.m., was coming from the kitchen into our living room, because I wanted to get something there. Opening the door, I took my first step into the room. As I stood there, startled, for at the rear living room exit, there stood a large male figure who was dressed in a strange gray suit, kind of overall, which had a large, round opening in the neck, which evidently served for a helmet, which the man wasn't wearing, however. All around the belt, some strange things were attached. Evidently startled himself, the bearded man looked at me for a second, then took a step backwards and grasped with his left hand onto a small device on his belt, upon which he simply dissolved from one split second to another into nothing. He just disappeared without a trace, and indeed without a sound. Still standing there startled, wild thoughts shot through my head before it became clear to me that the man at whom I had stared for about 15 seconds could have been no other than Ptah, the extraterrestrial friend of Billy. Billy's description of this man, at any rate, fit very exactly to the figure in the living room, and that it had actually been Ptah. He confirmed this to Billy still on the same day, for at 2:46 p.m., so about 15 minutes after, 119th contact took place, which Billy explained. Ptah told him that he had looked for him in the living room and in the bedroom where...
where you stayed there, how you can get even sleep there? It's like
Yeah.
just like on another layer, like just like not so serious, but it's like it's quite insane. And even like after the stuff with Wendell Stevens came out, it's just like they always say, I mean, just to address like some other frequency emitting from this case, because I think there's no other case where you can get such deep. I mean, you visit the place, so you catch the vibe there, and you was not off-putted. I mean, imagine you were going there and you would see, okay, now I'm going there for the first time, and I will see how this is all feeling, like not a remote access, like a real access. And then you come back and you're like, I would not say more compelled, but you're not like say, okay, this is all, there was a bad vibe and this was all not it. And then it's like things like this happen, and it's like, I mean, sometimes we have to address this aspect of the thing, I think, because otherwise the human psyche, I think it's hard to handle this at some point. I think maybe some people are even believe or compelled by the material, and it's like, I think it can be very intense on the psyche if you think about some certain things in this case. And this is just, yeah, like, I mean, I can totally believe this. Like when they say they're so strictly, nobody else can have contacts, nobody else can see them, and this and that, and then like these little errors happening, and it's like, I think that's
Well, there's a couple of reasons. Let me just go into that real quick. Why only Billy can meet with them? It's a lot for safety reasons, like you said. It's very hard on the psyche, and two, it's dangerous. So you have like military guys like running all over the place, and then you have the psyche. One of the people around was like spying and snooping around and witnessed Andron, and he later went crazy and he killed himself.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
he realized he doubted Billy, didn't think it was real, and then he was snooping around at night, right? And he saw one of the giant ETs, and then he realized he had been so wrong, and he couldn't handle it psychologically.
Yeah.
And
this is just like one possibility of how things can play out. And this is thing, I mean, if this case is getting more established, and I mean, people who are more like in the inner circles probably already thought about these things, but it's like on a general basis, it's like more, there are like even new psychological fields inside of this case, like, because it's like, if it's real and we take it for granted, there's like so much stuff which actually will form, like even if they want it or not, it will form this world in some way. And this is like, this ground question was what I was asking Michael in the end of the thing, where I say, okay, what's in it for them? And he was like explaining there's like some, I would say, like historical connections and stuff, but it's still a great, like a thing with huge impact to go on another planet and have this contact, have this operation. But yeah, I think, I don't want to go off on a tangent here.
Here's another courtroom quality signed statement. It says, the undersigned herewith confirm that they have never observed or known Mr. Edward Albert Meyer, parentheses Billy, residing here, of ever being involved in any unfair intrigues or manipulations in order to feign false facts, much less having ever been involved as assistance. Furthermore, we know of no wealthy backers ever giving Billy material help in any way for the production of his ufological slide series and short films. We also confirm that the reports of our experiences outlined in this book completely correspond to the truth. If need be, these statements can also be sworn before a court of law. Hinterschmidt Rudy, Semyati Silver Star Center, February 16, 1991. And there it is, and there are all the names, and there's Calliope Meyer signing the document, just like the others she signed. And that's another courtroom quality example. And then here's a thing of her own son, who's Methuselah. So, the ex-wife turned on the husband and tried to like get the kids on her side, and some of the kids sided with Billy, and some of the kids sided with Calliope. But this guy is saying, well, this is her son. He says
So
he's
this
like
is
very
like the like son of Billy Meier as well, or like
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
This is
okay.
one of their kids.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
one
one
of
of their
their
kids.
kids. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Had a falling out kind of like later and had like a rough kind of life. But it's just like a page or two. And this is an interview with him. Methuselah, your parents are divorced and your mother is inflaming public opinions against your father. What persuaded you to take sides in this war of the roses? Actually, I am of the opinion that the divorce is purely a personal matter between my parents and is none of my business, and I should not interfere. After all, my relationship with both parents is not affected by the divorce. But when I read Luke Bergin's interview with my mother, I was extremely upset and was forced to change my mind in this regard. Once again, my mother is up to her old foul play. She is telling Bergin things for which I have proof that they are not true. She is lying when she says my father has been cheating people for years and that she has helped him in the process. I can testify to the fact that she too had numerous sightings at different times of day and night.
Yeah, this by the way, I think this is one thing. Even like some people they know nothing about the case, but they know one thing. They know thing, oh, Billy Meier's ex-wife was
Yep.
telling this is like one thing. I think this should like actually hurt the thing a lot, like in the public perception. But yeah,
Yep.
just a thought here.
Yeah, I'll keep going. Cross your heart. What do you think of today of your father's UFO contacts now that you have moved out of your parents' home? And did you ever have your own doubts? My opinion of my father's contacts has never wavered over the years. I am just as convinced now as I ever was that his contacts are real, and this is a logical consequence resulting from my own experiences. After all, even as a small child, I already had opportunities to attend sightings at which my mother and occasionally also my brother and sister were present. These sightings have always stayed in my memory because they were so impressive for us all. I actually never had any doubts, although I have extensively and intensively pondered Poppy's contacts, which is his dad's contacts, which seems to me only natural. After all, I had to associate everything I experienced and heard with my surroundings, and for this reason, I inevitably probed everything I was experiencing and hearing. Were you ever witness to UFO sightings or any unusual incidents which convinced you that your father was actually having contacts with extraterrestrials? In an earlier answer, I already mentioned that I had various opportunities to witness sightings even as a small child. Several of these sightings are still very clear in my mind. They have embedded themselves indelibly in my memory because of the surrounding circumstances. As far as unusual incidents and the like are concerned, from which one could conclude that my father actually maintained contacts with extraterrestrials, I have plenty. The earliest experience I can still vaguely remember was a sighting in June of 1976 when I was not even 3 years old. We were with my mother, my brother and sister, Hans Schutzbach and Amata Stetter, in a nature reserve in Hinwil. I can still recall that it was a sunny, warm day and that Hans Schutzbach began running around very excitedly when a large silver disc was departing. He photographed it nervously, but by then it was already quite far away. We watched with great interest for a long time as the disc flew off. In the summer of 1980, I was present in the Sedeleg when we were given an opportunity to record the whirring sounds of Semyasi's beam ship. Now, there's another person that was there. I was standing next to Mommy in view of my father when the whirring sounds began. They were so loud that even the neighbors who lived about 4 kilometers or 2.5 miles away came to see what was going on. Mommy was with her recorder in such an advantageous position to the source of the sounds that she was able to make the best recordings of all. 1 year later, in early August, together with several others, I observed at night a formation of 6 light objects on the horizon above the Boule in the Tos Valley. Based on their unusual flight maneuvers, there is no way they could have been regular airplanes. The show, quote, show, lasted for more than half an hour. And in addition to my mother, my father, my brother Atlantis, and sister Gilgamesha, several other people observed the display too. The ships performed various formation flights and very unusual flight movements before some of them simply disappeared. We could still watch the others until they blended into the darkness. Later on, in September 1982, when I was barely 9 years old, I was standing next to my father when a small footbridge was being cemented across a drainage ditch at the driveway of the shed. As soon as the work was completed, we left the construction site to bring material for cordoning off the area to protect the freshly cemented footbridge. Silvano, who had gone ahead of us, suddenly came dashing around the corner of the shed and called out to my father, because in the meantime, someone had actually stepped into the fresh cement. Poppy griped, and ran to the construction site, where we noticed, only at second glance, that the imprint of the shoe was exceedingly large, namely more than 42 centimeters, 16 and a half inches long. Have you, which is in one of the pictures I showed earlier in the talk, have you ever experienced or seen anything that would indicate that your father wanted to deceive others? No, I have neither experienced anything like this, nor were there indications that he had faked something. It is not in his nature to fabricate anything for other people or to cheat them. I am certain that my father is telling the truth in regard to his contacts, and this also coincides with my own experiences. What do you personally tell those people who accuse your father of being a fraud? There is an old saying that one can learn how to lie from hearsay. This applies to most of those people who call my father a fraud. Very few of them have ever convinced themselves of the situation by going to the actual locations or delving seriously into these matters. And if they have actually done so, they often show their jealousy because they couldn't handle the fact that another person can experience something that didn't happen to them. My father withdrew from the public eye over the years, partially because of my mother, Calliope Meier, but also to give her a chance at playing top fiddle. By letting her have her way in this manner, he was able to satisfy her urge to be, quote, top dog. In keeping with his character, he certainly didn't mind this at all, because by doing so, he could avoid some people fawning over him, since they looked on him as the great master, a guru, or something special. However, he finds such idolization repugnant and extremely unwelcome. For this reason, he continues his life withdrawn from the public. Thank you, Methuselah. Thank you, Michael Hizeman. And then there's another video on YouTube where Jun Ichiyawi is interviewing Calliope, and it's like, I don't know, like a 20-30 minute, and the sound quality is really bad and you need subtitles, but Calliope's going on saying like, oh yeah, I saw this ship and that ship, and oh yeah, he's telling the truth and all that. And then number 5, she was one of the people who took a lie detector test with 14 other people, and they all passed the test. So 100% of them, they all passed lie detector test. So she passed lie detector test saying the sightings and contacts were real. And then the last one here is from Contact of the Pleiades, Volume 2 by Lee and Britt Elders. In June of 1976, 7 people were waiting with me for Billy, or Edward, to come back from a contact. He came to us and said, go with me to another point. We went and waited. It was daylight, and one of the boys told us to look up into the sky. It was our first sighting in the day. The ship was very big, but got smaller as it rose, and I clearly saw the detail around the top of the ship. I saw little ports, and the whole UFO seemed to be light. The children, 3 other women, and 1 man saw it too. There are many lights going across the sky at night, but I cannot be sure what they are. But this, I am sure, was the ship of Semyasi. I didn't believe it before because I had never talked about UFOs or seen one, but after this day, I believe. There are plenty more pieces of evidence and witness testimonies, but these few examples completely overrule her later fraudulent statements on which skeptics often rely.
Yes.
So that's the nail in the coffin for her, because there's 6 examples of her like swearing up and down and signing documents in a courtroom. I win the case, and that's courtroom quality evidence right there. You know?
This is like what I've said. Some people, they don't know much about the case, but they said, oh, his ex-wife said he was a hoaxer, and then you just bring this and the discussion is done.
That's like the first thing they say is like, oh, his wife said he made models, and like caught him making models.
And there's like the second thing is the string, and then I don't know if you noticed, but there's like one video where there's like a movement in the bottom corner, and this is like people people want to argue with me on this for hours. They say, oh, you see, it's a hand and something, and I notice there's something moving, but that's everything I notice. The rest is just basic
right.
statements on preconceived notions or like wishful thinking or something. Because there is something moving, but to make the next step in your brain that this is like a miniature thing and this is like a hand holding a string, this is like some fantasy stuff, actually.
Billy is the only person I've ever seen who's taking a photo or films of a UFO with a camera on the tripod, and then he walks in front of the camera
Yeah.
while it's filming, right? In between the camera and the UFO, like while it's like floating there, right? I mean, like, what more do you need? Anyway, so
yeah, people would say that he got like 20 or 30 people helping him, and he's like the cover.
Except
of the
those
thing
same
that-
people signed a
Yeah.
signed a statement that say we never did any of this, you know, like,
Yeah.
and it's telling the truth. So that's all, you know. That you can't accept hearsay in the court of law, but you can accept signed statements,
Yeah.
sworn documents that are dated and have other people.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly you need some mental capacity and an open mind to even to get to this case, to not get repelled by the force field of
Negativity.
hoax headlines and stuff. And like this one guy, like this one content creator, he said he mentioned Billy Meier in a 3-hour video, and he said like Billy Meier, a known hoax.
Yeah,
That's it. And it's like
so that's the first thing that comes up on on Google and
Yeah.
Wikipedia. It's the
And
first
then like
sentence.
half an hour later, he studies the case. I don't know which case it was. Maybe it was the Virginia case or something. I don't know. Or something else. And then he encountered exactly the same thing. He said, "Oh, how can people label this a known hoax?" But he'd done it 30 minutes away. And I think he's intelligent. He already got to that point. I think like you said it. Many like or content creators or researchers in the field, they know about this case and they know it's not necessarily a hoax, but they can even present like this stance on the case.
I guarantee you, like, all those people, they haven't read one contact report.
Yeah, or they even, I mean, they personally maybe are compelled, but they're not can put it like in the outer, like put it out there on their own under their own name, and this is like I said,
they never look into it. They never look into it past the Wikipedia entry, and they see all the negative search results, like his wife Calliope saying it's fake, and they see like CalCorp, and they see Wikipedia, it's a UFO religion, and then they stop there. They don't.
But do you not think some people are compelled, but then just like keeping it a secret? Like some people know about this stuff.
Oh, that's true. That's true. A lot of
people they know it, but they cannot. I noticed like this one guy where I said he said it's a known hoax. This was like a year or two ago, and now he's like asking about the case, asking about Billy Meier, and there was like this Giordani guy on his show, and he's like a wild dude. He's like everything is Nazi.
I just watched him for the first time. He is all over. His sources like dreams and
he's like
messages and
it's
stuff.
like some nice listen actually, but you can't put much into this stuff. But he's like saying, okay, Billy Meier, his real name isn't Billy. You know, his real name isn't Billy, so it's all a hoax. His real name is Edward. That's why it's all a hoax. And he was like working for Die Spinne.
I listened to Jason Giorgiani and Jason Crowder, and it was like the most like false conversation I've ever, like, after reading all the contact reports, right? You know, like what's true and what's not. And it was like the most out there, over the top, like ridiculous. Let me just finish my presentation.
Yeah, sure, man. Sure. Sorry.
And then we can get into whatever you want, because I love talking about this. So this is just a little piece of a contact report that Fatah said, and the Plejaren like investigated all this stuff themselves. So they said, overall, as we've determined through detailed investigations, you have made 1,476 photos with your Olympus ECR 35mm camera, as well as 34 films with your movie camera that you could use with just one hand. Of the photos, several hundred were stolen from you, and moreover, at least which we could clarify, 230 of these were falsified. There was also falsifying through the manipulation of several films, and to be sure, in the way that our aircraft were suddenly represented as though these had been suspended from thin strings or wires, etc. And so the impression was made that these were models, which is exactly what the other guy said, Alois Son, that his dad manipulated the things to make him look like there were little strings, you know. And then there's this little piece here. This is very recent, at least from this year. And as far as my photos were concerned, I had them in safekeeping with ... who sold a large number of them to Germany, some of which I was then able to buy back as copies for 10 marks apiece. However, I had previously given many of the originals to the photographer ... in the Rhine Valley, who was supposed to organize them for me in the form of a register, but the man forged them together with two ... and attached long threads to them as if they had been models and hung them up. Many of these photos were then distributed worldwide. So unfortunately, all these were distributed worldwide. In addition, many were stolen from me, and some were also burnt by ... but some were rescued in order to accuse me of being a fake. This, just as the photographer Sorge in Mendrisio also falsified some of my photographs and conjured them into pictures of Mendrisio as if Semyasi had flown around there with her beam ship. He published these falsifications in a pocket diary. He and his girlfriend Mara ... were on holiday with my daughter ... and my then ... relative and Sorge and ... were plotting all kinds of evil things against me in order to ... Well, there were many originals of these photos. I was allowed to take more than 3,000 in total, of which Semyasi kept about half of the originals of the photos and films, some of which Piero was later able to use when he made the photo books. And then what a lot of people don't know is Billy has written 50 books and 22 and a half contact report blocks, which are 500 pages each, and a 30-year course and 90 teaching letters. So I'm just going to scroll through real quick. You can pause it, and here's the first, some of his books, and then you can pause it again. Here's more. Here's some more. Here's some more. And then now we get into the photo inventory, and these are the contact report volumes. So they're all about 500 pages, as you can see. So here's at the top, volume 1, going down. Volume 22 is done, and then they're working on 23 right now because his contacts are still ongoing. And all these books are 500 pages each. This is crazy. This is like 12,000 pages of just contact reports. And somebody said on Twitter, they were like, oh yeah, oh, John Greenwald from the Black Ball. Oh, he's like, oh yeah, Billy's really good at writing fictional stories. Aren't you kidding me? You're gonna write 12,000 pages of fictional contact reports? And then there's the Geisteslehre, which is like the teaching course, which is the red books, which is another 6,000 pages. It's a 30-year course of these like little books that you get like a couple times a year. And then there are all these teaching letters, which are like essays. And I'll just go here, and you can pause it if you want to read the things. And here's another page, and it's all about like creation energy teaching and life and the universe. And then there's even more, right? Even more like little booklets and stuff that he wrote about Figu and Nocodemian. And here's
that's
more.
a great overview, because
here's
like
more. And this is the treasure. This is like the most important stuff, man. This is why Billy's so special. It's about his teaching and his knowledge and his wisdom, you know. And here's some more, and that's it. And then that's that. And then my last thing is just here's a couple websites if you want to go. futureofmankind.co.uk has the full contact reports in English and German. And here's another site, billymeier.wordpress.com, and here's another site, us.figu.org, for people in America that want to connect. And that's it. That's my presentation. And now we can open up and talk about whatever you want.
Great. Yeah, man. First of all, thank you for doing this presentation. This was some very elaborate data. And it's like we know it's still like a fraction of all the stories from the case. There's so much stuff. So I think we can, like, you could do presentations on 10 different things on this. Like even talking about the books, like you know, I picked the Goblet of Truth for the first book. And I was thinking all of Billy's books were structured like this. And like you said, even the pre-part, before you came to the actual book, is like, I don't know, like 100 pages or something. It's like quite a lot. And I was thinking, okay, if I have to read like 49 other books like this, but they're all like, some are more a little bit easy, and there's like the names book, which is not really something to read. It's more like, it's more
and the book of spiritual symbols is just pictures.
Yeah. And I even
they're all
saw
different. They're all different. You know, Goblet of Truth is a very dense and thick and heavy book, but it's also very important. I think it's like one of his foundational like masterpieces.
Yeah, I was
Um,
thinking, yeah, I thought I would go straight to the source. And I think this
yep.
book and I think I don't know what, it's got this like this complicated name, which is like, I think these two books are maybe like the more hardcore books containing raw information. And I was thinking there's like the code thing when you read the book. It's like even just reading the book is a good thing. So that's basically like in the first pages. So even if you read the
Do
book,
you
it's like,
feel? Do you feel now? You're German as a
yeah,
first language. Do you
yeah.
feel? Do you feel like the code affect what some people would call like things
Yeah, that's
unlocking in
crazy.
your brain?
The thing is, like, I have to think like to get a very sober view on this. Where I was starting to read this book, I was like, the whole case like just felt magnificent. So
Yeah.
reading this stuff with like embedded magic code or not, it still like feels crazy. So I can't answer this with no, because I don't know, man. It's so crazy. Even some people like, this is just one small thing out of so many things. And I think that's a good segue, because there was one book, it goes about UFOs and life from different worlds.
Mhm.
And I'm so interested in some random information. Like one thing was in the Randy Winters tapes, Billy Meier was like got infos on the rings of Saturn, like before like the scientists got it, like things like
Mhm.
this.
How
And
about the
like,
rings of Earth?
yeah, rings of, like, I don't even
Yeah.
know about that, but I just saw some weird AI art with Earth with rings, but you can maybe yeah, elaborate on this story. What do you
Well,
mean?
Earth had rings at I think two different times in its history.
Okay, yes, yeah, okay, some
It was a
time
very
traveling stuff. Okay,
long
yeah,
time ago. And then you wanted to ask me about Roswell and Atlantis too, right?
yeah, yeah, sure, yeah. Like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's we can go to Roswell, because I mean, in the contact notes, it's basically saying Roswell is like a real thing. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
real, one of the rare occurrences, one of the rare
Mm.
cases which are basically real. And I mean, I just got some few information on this right now, but I mean, you can say it's connected to the Greys, and the Greys are like basically this android type of thing. And some people throw this all together like it's an ET race, but then it's androids. But I think it's also, people just look at it in a simple way, because there are so many civilizations out there actually, like and they, maybe some of those, maybe most of those are building like androids if they got better tech to send them out to different worlds to do dangerous missions, and that like own like souls and stuff. It just makes sense if you extrapolate the stuff. But maybe you can yeah, tell me about Roswell, what they're actually saying,
Well,
because I don't,
everybody in America knows about the Roswell case because it was like the first big
yeah,
thing. And, I guess you could say that the public opinion is split. Nobody really knows like 100% one way or the other. But it's kind of like one of those things where, well, the smoking gun is the truth came out in the newspaper the next day.
yeah.
And then they had to come up with like a
It's
story. It
it
was
seems
like PSYOP 101, like when America was just first learning how to cover up,
kindergarten
like
style,
the
yeah.
PSYOPs
Yeah,
and
it's
fake
just like
news.
they
Like they had
learned
to come up with
in the process.
a cover story. And so I was surprised how the Plejaren just straight up said like, "Yep, it was a real crash." And I even think they may have said there were two crashes in the area. I don't know if they were at the same time though, but um anyways, they say yep, they're from Zeta Reticuli. Um I don't think there were survivors, or that like they didn't survive very long afterwards. Um I think they were um like you said, like biological androids, which is still kind of hard for us to put our
Yeah,
to kind of picture, but it's basically like you said, like if we were going into like a dangerous like radioactive mine shaft, we send a robot in for us, like as a scout, or as a drone to go in. So I think these are like kind of like living clones or drones that are like living, but they're not fully human, but they're like kind of made in the image of
yeah.
the home people kind of.
I
um
remember the Plejarens depicted it in a way like you said, it's hard for us to fathom. It's not just like a robot or android. It's like they're like biological beings, like basically like humans, or like humanoid beings from their world. I think they said they're more like created in appearance, which makes sense. I mean,
But it's
we live.
not the people. It's not the people who live there.
Nah,
right?
yeah. There was
Yeah,
some.
that's the difference. Like
There was some
everybody.
depth to the story, so I want to say
Yeah.
too much, but they basically said it's like they ain't got souls, but they are like treated like humans. They basically got rights and stuff. It's
Yeah.
not just they are not robots and that's it. But
Right.
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're treated like humans, but if you go to the planet where they came from, that's not like who lives on that planet, you know? That it's like the creation of the beings who live on that planet.
Yeah.
Right.
This
Yeah,
is like one
for
example.
the purpose of space travel or whatever. Yeah.
There's so much depth to all these things. Like there's like this is just one small thing, and there's like, oh, that's not the Greys, and there's androids, and there's so much backstory to this. They always give a lot of information, and there's so much elaborate information on so much things. And maybe we go to the next thing if you want, but if you still got something to say about the Roswell thing.
Oh no, that's about it. I guess people can look and see what the contact reports say about it, you know?
Okay, because I think, they said, like you said, like George Adamski, he's like a hoaxer, and many other people getting mentioned in the contact notes. And I think it's kind of important to highlight a case where they say, okay, it's actually happened. And I think that's quite funny that they're actually like from Stellar Reticuli, and many people know this, like they know the name Stellar Reticuli and the Greys and stuff, but it's always some big stigma around it, and maybe sometimes it's true.
I think all of the hype about the Greys kind of started because of Roswell. There may be other ET races, so you wanted to ask me about the different kinds of ET races.
Yeah,
so
this
like,
was actually
a lot of them are human looking, right? Like look like very similar to us, just with minor differences.
Yeah.
And the Plejaren say there are 18 like body types, right? There's like thousands and millions of like types of aliens, but there's basic types, and I can read them real quick. There's humanoids like the Plejaren. There's amphiboids, people who resemble animals that live in the water and live on land and water, like Asina and her people. There are reptiloids, there are insectoids, sauroids, primatoids, condicoids, who are humanoids who are capable to move along through levitation, like some who visited the Semyasi Stover Star Center. Pteropoids, human bird-like. Hydroids, human fish-like body, who are living in the water but can leave it for longer periods. Thermoids, humanoids who live in hot zones of very high temperature. Frigiroids, humanoids who live in regions with very low temperatures. Aeroids, humanoids who are breathing poisonous gas or living in different gas environments. Acoroids, the humanoids whose skin is covered by a layer of acid, like the Trilaner, who put their hands on someone's car in Billy's parking lot.
Yeah, he got a visitor, from this. Yeah, I remember that.
That was cool. Fluorides, human-like and diverse plant bodies. Kentorides, like centaurs. Faunoids, bodies are part human, part animals with hooves. Cheruboids, very light human life forms with wings, with which they are capable to fly. And seraphoids, very light life forms with human animal-like body with feathered wings, which are able to fly. And that blows my mind. And then there's finally one more. It's called Fremdartig humanoid, which is non-humanoid life forms are called peregrine humanoids, which means strange humanoids, or like, I guess you could call it just like other, you know?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I was seeing this graphic where they list all this, or this little list I think on one of the pages you just showed. And I think one remarkable thing on this is like, I don't want to bring the hermeticism thing inside this, but it's always this as above, so below thing. And all of the things you mentioned, it's like the humanoid blueprint mixed with some thing in nature we got on this planet. So it's all like, it's clearly it's mind-blowing, it's new, but it's the humanoid blueprint, like the blueprint we got on this planet, and it's mixed with all kinds of things in nature we got on our planet, actually. And it's like, there's nothing like, and this, of course, this is just a small fraction of intelligent life in the universe still. I guess it's not just, that's all just humanoids in different forms. This is just the humanoids, and there's like other things as well. I think I don't want to make this comparison, but I mean, to be honest, it's a little bit like Star Wars. It's a little bit like
Absolutely.
in the Star Wars universe, basically.
And Star
I
Wars
mean,
has androids too, just like the
yeah.
Plejaren, you know.
There's just, I think it's like, I mean, and all these things like the gnomes and dwarfs. I mean, it's basically all
And
like
giants.
giants. I mean, yeah, that's more like on our planet. This happened as well, as far as I'm getting it. And I mean, I'm interested in so many things. And where I heard this for the first time, there were so many windows or like doors which opened, even just to maybe it's all for nothing, but it's just to explore all these things. I mean, I'm interested in things where if I read in the contact notes, maybe for example about music, like I was like looking for specifically for like the music thing and like art and other things which could be in principle they could be shared in between, like not necessarily between us and the Plejaren, but maybe between another humanoid race which is like on the same spectrum basically, or like on a similar spectrum. And then of course they said, oh, on this planet there's like maybe like 3 pieces of music, like they're, I don't know what it was
Like
exactly,
Wagner's.
something, yeah, Valkyries with the
Yeah.
Valkyries, something like 3 pieces they mentioned.
It's like classical.
Yeah, like some, like where it's like they say, okay, it's not too bad actually,
Yeah.
but it's like they said, oh, the instruments and sounds wouldn't make sense to us. And I think, I don't know how to phrase this, but that's like we are talking just to a small fraction of humans from their world, which like are educated and like learned this for hundreds of years just to have this mission and are like specialized in doing this to basically communicate with a, I would say this like lower evolved race to fulfill this mission on their part. And I mean, they're just other people, and my brain goes like wild. Like I mean, there are millions, like the planet is not overpopulated like our planet, but there are still like millions of other beings like doing some stuff there, maybe doing this and that, and this is always filtered through like a handful of people coming from their world. So we always have to keep in mind there's so much more. Even like they're still like, even if they're like 50,000 years evolved, like more evolved than us, they're just like it's all going through their own filter, and there's so much other stuff. I mean, maybe sometimes we can hear some Pleiadian music at some point.
There's a couple contact reports about like the importance of music on the psyche, and there's also a report where Ptah is alone in Billy's office and he got caught listening to a Julio Iglesias CD. Did you read that one?
Nah, man, that's new to me, man.
And it's so funny, and like
That's
so
exactly
like,
what. Yeah, perfect,
like
man.
the
Go ahead.
girls like Florena and like Bermunda, like they'll be in his office like when Billy's gone, and they'll be like listening to his music, and
Yeah.
they listen to like, and Ptah was like, oh yeah, I listen to like jazz and classical guitar and stuff like that, and like Ptah plays like chess with Billy sometimes, like, you know, like they are people. And
Yeah.
there's a couple contact reports about music, but I thought the funniest one when Ptah left the CD in the CD player and he was caught listening to Julio Iglesias.
Yeah, that's like they always project like they're so distant and they got all these rules and something, but sometimes I think they're like you said, they're just like humans. Maybe they seem a little bit like weird to us, but I mean they're educated for hundreds of years to do this. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, but I think on the other hand, maybe just to expand this a little more, maybe there are just like other like weird interactions on this planet, not necessarily with the Plejaren, but I mean they always said the thing I talked about with Mike is like this the storage banks and like the spirit who's got impulses from the storage banks to like, I don't know. I mean, I can bring some game like PC game analogies to this. Like basically, like you get the impulses and like proceed to continue a certain trade or something, and it's all coming together.
The storage banks store your learned experience, right, from your entire life, like, you know, like when it is like a computer game or a video game, like when you die, like all your progress is saved
up to the
right?
cloud.
Do you want to continue, yes or no, right? And
you
go into the beyond, and your life is like processed and stored in various storage banks, and then when your spirit form comes back into a new embryo, it's going to have a new personality. It's like you're a new character all over again. So
it's like you create a new character.
Last game you were a dwarf fighter, and this game you're an elf magician, and the next you're an orc,
and there are like so many aspects going into this. It's like this is not on myself, but just the general things. Like there's so many people on this planet. They're like feel they're on the wrong body, like on the wrong, they got the wrong, like the wrong gender or something. And even you got information from this, like I don't know if this is even true, but it sounds like so simple and like so fun to me. Like they basically said, you can correct me if I get this wrong, but they basically said like if you strive to have another gender, you like basically just think about it if you really want it, and maybe just like I think it's maybe this way that you're moving on a spectrum, like maybe you're like 50 lives, you're going on the male spectrum, and then some people change or not change or something. But we obviously got some people in our current society who got some thing, and I think it's maybe there's some on the spectrum. You're just on the lifetime before you switch. You get my point?
There's a lot of information about
so
this.
just like just cut on this randomly, but it's like
it's a great topic. It's very important, and some of the issue is some people died suddenly in the previous life, and they didn't get to finish their last life.
upload.
They didn't get to spend as much time in the beyond to process the new personality. It's like back to the video game thing when you're loading your character right at the beginning of your life, or I mean in between lives, the character doesn't get fully loaded, so it's not fully like built out. So it can cause issues. But they say like many things are natural that happen like on different planets and even within the Plejarens, and there's so many different influences and things going on here too. But I don't want to get into it too much, but you will live so many different kinds of lives on this planet, and probably also different like areas too. Like, you could have lived on a different continent.
And that's just one question, if I may interrupt you at this point, to just say like the thing you said, you get like a sheet where the history on this planet was, where the different races came here, and like you got the Adam guy, and you got like the Black Adam guy basically, and there was like the Asian race came to this planet not even 30,000 years ago. That's what they say.
Correct.
And like the thing I was wondering about is like these spirit forms. Of course, like this is the thing I learned very recently. Like due to overpopulation, we got a little less rest time, and we're getting shot into this world, into new bodies. And I think maybe where you upload and defragment your cloud, basically where you're like you're not in the current body, but you're like out of the thing, and you're like basically, I call it rest. Maybe it's the night, and the day is like when you're on the server. I don't know, but you get my point. And how is this even working? Like, are these all? I mean, it's said that the spirit forms are bound to a planet. If you want to live on another planet, you need to go there and die there, and then you get like implemented into their system. And that's like some people say the great or abduct people to do this, whatever. But and it's like these people came here, and it's just like a new skin we unlocked for our earthly spirit forms. Or are they just bringing new spirit forms? Or is it just like a new skin, like a new cosmetic, basically, if you get my point? Like if we translate this to a game, like I can born in the next life as a Chinese man, basically. Like I mean it's like that, but
you're gonna pick up from where you left off at the same level of evolution.
Yeah, the genetic
it's a step-by-step level up. Like each life you could see is another level up,
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking this. I mean, if I die tomorrow and I come back, I mean, I'm a totally different personality, and I catch myself thinking about seeing this as a coherent thing, but I think that's not how it meant to be on the one hand, because they always say you are not the same person, you are a totally different person, you just got the same spirit form and all these things, all these layers in between this. So like we talked about this before, I hope in my next life I encounter this information, because this world will still be not really much more involved. If I die tomorrow, I'm born in 92, and if I basically might as well come back before the year 2100. And this is like how, I mean, I'm thinking about this Inception movie and this totem type of thing. Like, can I, like you said, like some kind of meditations to do this stuff? And this is like, I think it's crazy how much you can even influence a thing which is out of your own reach, basically. I mean, there's so many other things, but you answered my question.
The main point of Billy's teaching and what the Plejaren came to help him with understand is to teach the human beings of Earth what our purpose in life is, how life works, the process of living, dying, the afterlife, and the rebirth of the spirit form in endless cycles over tens of millions of years to higher and higher levels of evolution. So on other planets, there are cavemen, right? Like bonky people on heads.
Yeah.
And we are somewhere kind of in the middle where we're just getting into like the very, very beginning of space flight. And
Yeah.
then there are other planets that are with people that are 500 years ahead of us, and there are other planets where there are thousands of years ahead of us.
Yeah.
So, like all over the universe, there are human beings and humanoids who are have a conscious consciousness and a spirit form, and they all go through this long evolution of cycle of countless lives. And this is helps us understand. It helps us get over the fear of dying. It helps us understand fellow humans. It helps us understand like how we can evolve in this life and make our life better, because all the big questions of life are answered in this material, and it's
Yeah.
so important. It's like this was taught to humans in other personalities, starting from Enoch, right? And
Yes.
Elijah, Isaiah, Emmanuel, Muhammad,
And
right?
just quick, I will put things on the screen then. Like I got the
Mm-hmm.
this one graphic, like you got even the advanced one, and the other thing where you see the stages where they got the simple thing where they said, "Oh, Earth people," and then like where the Plejaren are and stuff. I think
Yeah.
that's pretty great visual.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
And it shows the step-by-step evolution. It shows like how far we come, but it also shows like that we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose of this is to make our entire society like peaceful. Like we could have world peace like right now if we just followed. We could stop all the environmental pollution, we could stop all
Yeah.
the wars, we could stop all the infighting. We could turn this planet into a paradise if we just listen to this material that's
Yeah.
been available for 50 years. I mean, Billy went public 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And
And
I mean, the contact reports are now like fully available to like most people on the internet now in German and English, and Spanish is being translated. But most of the world like can access it even if they don't speak those languages. But it's starting to just finally spread and snowball. And this is literally the most important information on Earth. And that's why I don't care about really any of the UFO stuff anymore. I'm just trying to get certain people to who are really, really interested to wake up and to focus on where it's important and not waste their time looking at things that are not important. Like the Goblet of Truth is probably like one of the most important books in the world, like if not the number
yeah,
one. And the
probably,
fact
yeah.
that, I think I started with that one too. And and even like the Plejaren said that. It's not like me saying that. And our society has so many problems, and and people are just so confused, and they go through life without like knowing their life's purpose, right? And they have all
Yeah.
these questions, but all the questions are like free. You can just type in the future of mankind in the search box and like type in a topic and get almost get like the answers, like almost
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, just to address some points quick you've just made. I mean, I think it's some little necessary to be in this UFO field to even be able to encounter this case. I mean, if you're not open-minded to the stuff, like in general, like I don't know, for me it was like a lightning bolt hit me, and I was just like turning some things around in my life, and I was just like searching in the UFO field, and I encountered some guys and some stuff. And then like 1 year in, I encountered the Billy Meier case, and now like we can talk about that, like just to emphasize with people who are like at a similar stage, or like even at the earlier stage or later stage. Like if you reach to like a conclusion that this material got so much stuff in it where you can learn from, and like even to not say, okay, it's 100% real or whatever, that's not even the thing here. Just to look at the information, to things and subjects you are interested in, and then you see uh, what it's spitting out basically.
Yeah, and
And
you're right. You have to be open-minded to the fact that
yeah, so I
maybe like
just
other intelligences have visited this planet before. And if you're open to that, then that's if you're not open to that, then you really no one's gonna be listening to this conversation. But if you are open to that, then like the whole universe opens, right? All
Yeah.
the possibilities of the universe open up to you. And that's what the Plejaren are saying. Like, they're saying, we posed our ships for you to take the best pictures in the world, UFO pictures in the world, so that people will slowly learn that they're not the only humans in the galaxy or in the universe.
Yeah, and I think that's even like just to say, because I think many people who are new to this case cannot like they cannot feel what you just said. They cannot feel, okay, I'm not looking at other things if they are just new to this thing. But I get it, because you're just reaching a next stage where you think, okay, you just come to the conclusion 99% of the other stuff is just bullshit and it's just a big media operation to generate money. And you see, like, you got one case as an example to compare stuff, and you see, if you not got this case, you can you got only just like bullshit cases to compare with each other, so you don't know what's going on, and you are like lost in this thing.
There's so
But if
much
you got
there's so much noise that you can't find this Billy Meier case. And let me ask someone who you just described, right, with all these other cases. About an hour ago, I was going through the Joe Tysk report with the pictures of India, right? You take one of those good pictures from India, you show me one person today or ever who has taken a better picture than that, and you'll find very few examples.
yeah, I mean,
And
that's
if the very basic thing is, if someone has a claim, right, on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or wherever, show me the evidence. And if you don't show me the evidence, then I'm not obligated to listen to your story. And I've been 12 years into this, okay? And so I'm just talking from my experience of studying everything I can about this. And before I found Billy Meier, I was studying everything else that I could, and like all the other cases. So I it's easy to I'm trying to save people time, because there
yeah,
are adults that are very old that still talk about Roswell and
yeah,
the guy from the Northwest, Kenneth Arnold, and the tall whites. I mean, you can go on and on for hours and hours about all
yeah,
these things, and the cattle mutilations. Like, I don't care about any of that anymore.
yeah.
I
Anymore,
found,
anymore is the important word. Yeah,
yeah,
because like you got some, you got the stuff where you see, okay, it's really you got something out of this. It's the first time you get something out of this UFO stuff, like actual, like you said, actionable intelligence, or like you said it. And yeah, just two things. I mean, one thing is, I think to close this out, I would say like a few examples to which people can like, there's like an index thing where people can look through the material, and you got like a filter thing. And I would say, like, we talked about Roswell. I mean, do you want to just cut on Atlantis maybe?
yeah, absolutely. What did you want to ask?
Yeah, I would say I got like the Tunguska thing and Atlantis. I mean, the Tunguska thing I think is crazy because, yeah, I mean, the whole world thinks this is like a comet or like a meteor.
Well, it
And
kind of was. It kind of was. So here's what the Plejaren say.
okay,
There was an extraterrestrial race of humans that looked close to us, but a little different. Okay. And this story actually goes back 1,000 years. They actually came here 1,000 years ago, but we're talking about the early 1900s for the Tunguska thing. So they've been here before, right? And they're here in the 1900s, and they kind of like weren't supposed to be here or something, but they had a problem with their ship. So their ship was flying by, and what these people did was they made their ship outside of inside of an asteroid. So they took an asteroid and they dug it out and they put their ship inside it, so that the asteroid can fly through space and be shielded from radiation, whatever. But
Green
inside they
Atlas.
I know you're that's what we're all thinking, but this actually is what the Plejaren said. And it's logical if you think about it and read the whole story. But there's a whole backstory to it. But their ship had a malfunction, so they're in Siberia, in 1902 or 1903, and they can't get their ship working. It's a disaster. And
Getting
then
sick or something, I think.
they get sick, and the whole crew starts getting really sick and dying, and because of this rule from something that happened 1,000 years ago, I'll let you read it yourself. They can't call for help, or no, they do call for help, but no one's going to come get them. So they're cooked. So then they get
Protocols.
sick,
Yeah.
and then they're dying, and then they can't fix their ship, and they're like, "All right, guys, it's over for us. We gotta self-destruct." So eventually, I don't know how long they were here. They made the decision. I mean, they're all dying anyway, and like it's terrible. So they made the decision to fly as high as they could and self-destruct their ship in a nuclear detonation or explosion. The ship blows up, which is why it causes a crater, a flat crater on the ground, right? It flattens all the trees, but there's no impact onto the ground like a normal meteorite crash. So that's like the confusion that confuses all the scientists who think like the smartest people in the world, right? They can't figure it out. But it did blow up like a high altitude. That's why people saw like a flash from really far
It's
away.
like an atom bomb, basically.
It's like basically an atom bomb. It blew up into tiny pieces, and that's why like eyewitnesses who were locals said it got like really warm and hot, and like there was a bright flash. It was basically an atom bomb like 125 years ago. So they died. But here's another interesting tidbit: those 4,200 whatever people that died, their spirit forms are here on Earth now, reincarnating.
Yeah, man. Yeah, right. I mean, that's logical, man. Yeah, right, man. That's like, I mean, that's just like one small thing, and I think that's mind-blowing information. And the thing you just said right now makes the whole thing even more strange. I mean, we just talked about that. Yeah.
So what did you want to know about Atlantis?
Yeah, I mean, Atlantis is like this whole myth, and people say, oh, it was just a fantasy novel written by Plato. And yeah, I mean, in the Billy Meier case, it's not just a small thing like the Tunguska thing. It's actually deeply connected to our own like history. And
I would
things.
I would say it's 100,000 years of our history missing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just like, for us, it's just like a fantasy story where some people think it's real, and it's actually like a big part of the history. And
it is
like
almost like a dream. It's like a dream to us because, well, okay, so from what I've read, it names the couple who founded Atlantis and Lemuria. So they were human ETs that came here. I think they were from Lyra, and there were 4 locations of Atlantis. Okay. And I don't know if you want me to go into them, but basically there were 4. There was like one in the Atlantic Ocean, one in the Azores,
the small thing where in Greece where all these buildings
Santorini with Lesser Atlantis, and then there was one more which was like the city of Ephesus, or the city of Troy. On Troy or Ephesus now today or whatever, but they build cities on old ancient foundations. So I believe it started 130,000 years ago, and it lasted for 100,000 years. And then what happened was Atlantis and Lemuria, well, there was a third party that came, but that started fighting everybody, the Hyper Aris. So there was this basically world conflict starting out, and Atlantis and Lemuria got into a battle. And what happened was Atlantis had beam ships, basically like flying saucers, and they went over to Lemuria, which is like on the other side of the world, and they wiped out the civilization, at least what was on the surface of the ground. I think there was an underground city or two, but they wiped out the whole civilization, right, in a devastating attack. And they celebrated their victory, and they partied that night. They partied all night long, but what they didn't know was that Lemuria had a weapon coming to take out Atlantis. So what they did was they steered this giant asteroid with rockets and propulsion on the back, and these mad scientists rode it all the way down into the earth, and they aimed it right at the center of Atlantis. And man, they hit that thing so hard, nobody survived. So they killed each other, and Atlantis got obliterated. And that was about 11 to 13,000 years ago. And that meteorite hitting the middle of the Atlantic Ocean wiped everything out. That's what caused the Younger Dryas extinction event.
Yes, perfect. Yeah. Yes, that's exactly how I remember the story too, because like I think it was the 5th video, I done like a 10-minute video, and I took this story because I couldn't help myself. This like the war story, and I packaged it like, humans doing this, like even with advanced tech in past times, they're doing this on this planet for all the time. And I think this is like this stuff, like you just said, is like straight out of science fiction thing. Like they used the Metroid and shot it down, and that's why the whole like topological thing is so like changed, and people think it must be a mythos because it's like underwater and stuff. But I think that's just like some great examples and some great information, and I think we could go for hours. But
That's a
it's
good
like,
place to end it for today.
it's like pretty late. Like I'm actually like, if I not got such a like raw day today, I would go even longer. But I think we just like end it here, and we can do more in the future. Like would be great to do some more sessions at some point.
I hope you had fun, and I hope your viewers enjoyed this whole presentation of mine. And I want to say also, I'm not selling anything, and we didn't exchange any money, and I'm doing this out of my passion for the truth. And I hope people, enjoy it and look into it more and learn on their own. And thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I can't wait to talk again.
Yeah, thank you for being here, man. This was great.
All right, have a good night.
What you have here, and I fucking love this example so much. I think it's so cool. It's two guys, 100 years apart, with the same realization. And the justification for the first one not saying what he didn't say loudly is the treatment of the second. I think it's like just this perfect explanation of irony. You know what I mean? It's so perfect.
Yeah.
And you go, well, the main issue that I have with like basically being right and early often feels a lot like being wrong. And if you make an example of somebody in that way, it is basically you saying, if you step out of line too far, this is what's going to happen to you. And it causes people who are trying to move conceptual inertia forward, we're trying to do research, I'm trying to assess whether or not this is actually the way that the world should be. It causes them to be more Copernicus, not more Galileo. And I think that is not what you would want in a civilization that's trying to continue to make progress.